Call this meeting of the Ocean Highway and Port Authority together for March 8th, 2023, 6 o'clock. Please stand for the invocation. Commissioner.
Our Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking that you would be in this room tonight, that you would give us wisdom in conducting the business that's at hand. We also ask that you would bless and protect each one that's here. And we ask that you would also bless the ones that protect us throughout the evening. Lord, we just ask for your special guidance tonight, that you would give us the great wisdom that you promised that you would give us if we ask for it. So tonight we do ask for that wisdom. We pray for patience. We pray for calmness. And we just pray that we'll get the job done tonight and we'll proceed on and that it'll bring glory to your name. We ask this all in Jesus' name for his sake. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Roll call, Roseanne.
Commissioner Cole,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Hill, here, Chairman Fullwood.
Present.
Thank you.
Can you all hear me in the back?
Very well.
Well, I'm sorry, they apparently, because of some reason, they won't let us use microphones here, so we're gonna have to speak as loud as we can, and that's all we can do till we get a PA system for ourselves. I'd like to start by making an opening statement. As you all are aware, the Ocean Highway and Port Authority of Nassau County is charged by state law with managing and operating the Port of Fernandina and fostering economic development throughout the county. Our state charter imposes additional responsibilities, liabilities, and obligations on OHPA that it must meet. In order to do these things effectively, OHPA needs resources. These resources include a professional and effective staff, legal representation, Florida Ports Council membership, and other similar tools. All of these cost money. Under the current operating agreement, OHPA has a very limited ability to generate business and revenue other than what the port operator generates and manages. One opportunity that we have been exploring for OHPA to generate revenue was cruise ships. The money collected from providing services to small cruise vessels could have been a solution to help OHPA manage some of the things that I've already mentioned. In considering the cruise ships as a business source, we heard from our fellow commissioners, the city of Fernandina Beach, the port operator, the neighboring businesses, and the community at large. What I have learned as chairman and what I now agree with is that servicing cruise ships at the port of Fernandina is not a good option. Therefore, I have requested that all mention of cruise ships and cruise-related infrastructure facilities be removed from the master plan and no longer be made a part of our business plan. I have learned enough to know that I no longer support servicing cruise ships at our port. But please remember that we thought cruise ships might be a solution to the problem. The problem as I see it, as my fellow commissioners also see it, is the operating agreement. Simply put, the language of the operating agreement greatly benefits the port operator and greatly limits OHPA's authority, decision-making, and ability to help create a thriving, growing, safe, and sustainable port. I originally felt that the revenue generated by cruise ships could help solve this problem, but I no longer think so. Instead, I believe we need to focus on creating a more balanced and clear operating agreement that recognizes the investment made every day by the operator, while also acknowledging OPA's authority and state chartered responsibilities. The current operating agreement does not do this. Frankly, the current operating agreement is not sustainable. Now, what do I mean by that? Some in the community have recently expressed concern about the types of cargo being handled at the port. This commission shares those concerns. However, as it is currently written, the operating agreement gives OPA very little authority to direct how and what the operator handles at the port. If we, meaning OPA and the operator, continue to work under the current operating agreement, we will also continue to have conflict with each other, as well as the city, the county, and our constituents. For instance, OPA is having to defend the operating agreement in a court of law because of how its language is interpreted and because of the actions of the previous operator. Unless we change this, we will continue to take one step forward and two steps back. I truly believe this. I truly believe that Savage, like OPA, wants to see a growing, thriving, and appropriate facility at the Port of Fernandina. And I believe that with some work and mutual compromises, we can create a better agreement between the two of us that will lead to better relationships and community impact for all of us. Therefore, I am asking this board's consensus to have the port attorney and executive director make it a top priority to continue to review the existing agreement and identify certain provisions and issues that must be addressed, with a focus on the issues I have just mentioned. We will all be part of this process, and if they are willing, which I hope they are, we will work with the operator to create a mutually beneficial path forward for the Port of Fernandina and this authority. Thank you. Grab that mic. Do I have any questions from the board about my statement? Do I have your consensus to instruct David and Patrick to get to work?
Well, this isn't on the agenda, so I don't know what we're getting consensus on.
What I just said, did you hear my speech?
Well, I mean, I don't know what are we voting on something?
No, I just want your consensus to have them meet with the operator to work on the operating agreement.
Well, it's just, I'm struggling with this because you voted for the operating agreement. My predecessor and you actually encouraged an objecting commissioner who wanted more time to change her vote and vote for the operating agreement.
So you're happy with the
You
operating
support the
agreement?
operating agreement. I wasn't on this board.
Or are you happy with it now?
It is a binding document. I will say it's a current valid document. And so I'm not going to express personal opinion about what was negotiated between the parties who were in this position at that time.
Okay. Yes.
So first, to comment about cruise ships, I agree, and I think that's wonderful that we're looking to now remove cruise ships from the master plan. As far as the operating agreement, I'm not saying it's something that shouldn't be looked at. I think we should always look at that, but I also just want to clarify that everything prior to Savage and Butch Gilbert being here seems like it was a mess, and prior to my time being on this board, there are lawsuits that we are in now because of the previous operator. But I do want to give Butch Gilbert, his team, and the Savage team a lot of credit, because they came in here and really they're working on being good stewards of the community. They've been accessible. I know there's some issues that we're kind of working through now, but I feel like he's been right there answering our questions, meeting with us, and the same thing with the public, which goes far above and beyond what the prior port operator was doing, but I will say, I do agree that having those discussions, with the operator, of ways to maybe improve the agreement and update the agreement, I think that's gonna be the way to go to see if we can make some headway, so we can be more beneficial for our community.
That's his,
Well, I agree that, we need to, look at the, what we said about the cruise ships. I agree with that portion. I think that's been the, consensus is loud and clear as to what we need to do in that capacity. All the other areas, again, they're issues between us and the port director or the port operator, and these have to be worked out. So my consensus is let's go ahead with it. Let's look into it. It's not, we didn't say we're changing the operating agreement. We're just gonna look into it. And it can be changed or modified at any time.
Commissioner Nelson.
I agree with Commissioner Cole. I think it's, no harm, no foul looking into it. Expressing concerns with Savage Services. I too have come to realize through Savage's operational techniques, that they're serious about their business. They listen, and they respond. So, with that being said, I think that, there would be no harm in sitting down with them and seeing what can be worked out.
Okay, with that having
So
been,
what is the consensus that we're directing the delegated person to do?
you want to address that? Well, he knows that.
Forgive first, apologize for being late. It's, not my style and I hate it. Sorry, my understanding is the consensus, is similar to something we've already discussed, which is to look at the operating agreement and identify those terms and conditions that are problematic, for OPA and problematic for the continued operation of the port, including, some of the litigation we're in. I can say, with confidence in dealing with the property appraiser case, we have learned and we've been told specifically, that the actions and statements and practices of the previous operator, not Savage, are directly connected to the litigation with the property appraiser, as is the operating agreement itself, and some of the terms and conditions in the agreement itself have given rise to, at least in part, a large part, the litigation with the property appraiser. And if some of those terms and conditions were addressed and changed, that may likely result in the end of that litigation. So I think from what I've heard, and what I've talked to the chairman about and talked to Mr. Kaufman about, is that the direction would be for the two of us, Mr. Kaufman and I, to continue to look at the operating agreement and the terms and conditions that are giving us trouble or that have gotten our attention, and to continue to work with the operator. We've already had discussions with the operator and their in-house legal team, and to continue to do that to try to make the agreement a little bit more sustainable going forward.
And they are willing to do that.
And that's what I've been told.
Yes.
And so from what you just said, my understanding is that you're not discussing pricing or financial terms in any specifics, that any of that would come back to the board before that, like fee structure, any of that would come back to the board.
Everything will come back to the board.
Any changes or any proposed changes or any discussions would have to come back to the board.
Okay, well, I'm directing you two to do that and get started on that as soon as possible. Okay. All right. We're gonna move in now to public comments, and just remember what I've just said about cruise ships. It's not in the master plan now. So I know some of you are gonna talk about that, but there's no need to, because it's gone. It's not gonna be there. We listened, we heard from you, we've heard a lot from you. And we've come to that same conclusion that we just don't need to be doing it, so. All right, First up is, and I'm gonna give you 2 minutes because we've got so many here that want to talk. If you run over a little bit, we'll try to accommodate you, but please be quick. All Lord. State your name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, good evening, Paul Rohr, 2794 Longbow Drive and 11 South 7th Street, Fernandina Beach. Good evening, I thank you for your time. I am going to speak about the cruise ships, because I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for the board to consider it and to really listen to the community and to see its potential impact. I usually try not to come up here with pre-planned thoughts. I try to listen to you and see some of the words that you use. And one of the words that you used tonight was resources. And I really believe strongly in the balance of resources. And I understand that the job that you have, and I understand that in 60 years of living on this planet, there needs to be a balance between economic development and communities thriving and living together. And I hope as you move forward, you really take that into consideration seriously. Because for the short time that I've been here, I have seen nothing but tension grow as our community, as our island, and as our county really kind of it explodes. When I sat at the last meeting, I listened to a lot of tension. I've been sitting at some of the county meetings, I'm hearing a lot of tension. And the last couple of city commissioner meetings, I'm also seeing a lot of tension. When I go to the beach to enjoy and surf and use the water, I see our parking and everything exploding. So for you all here as leaders, I really look forward to watching you lead and find a very delicate balance between our environment and our economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Suzanne Dixon.
Thank you, Suzanne Dixon, 505 Calhoun. I guess, I thank you very much for your words and for explaining to us what some of the issues are, and that is important to me. Some of my issues that I wanted to make sure that you understood were the pollution and, air and water. So I'm hoping that, I know at St. John's at that port, there was a private individual who was buying up land and wanted to create a transfer station over by the highway so that the stuff wouldn't be all coming on and off from the port. They were having, stations, you don't have storage space and all of this other stuff. We've got the rail. I think it's really important that we capitalize on those relationships with the two mills, because there's just so much stuff coming on into the roads and moving trucks. So I wish that I know that resources that you said is an issue, and I'm hoping that you can use your neighbors. Rainier's got a ton of land out there, in West Rock, and move things in a different way, and also participate in the Marine Highway, where it's not being loaded and unloaded, but just, transferring it on and on. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bob Virtue.
Virtue, 424 North 3rd Street, Fernandina Beach. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I do want to say I want the port to be successful. I bought my house, I knew the port was in the neighborhood, but I gotta be honest with you and tell you my house was there long before OHPA was created. So when I think about OHPA for a minute, I think about the mission statement as it is. And it's, keywords to me are benefit to the citizens of the county of Nassau and the state of Florida. So I see that as, and the master plan changes that mission a bit. And it changes it, I think, to favor the operator. For example, it says develop, operate, and maintain revenue generating for whom? For the citizens of Nassau County and the state of Florida. to go back to the original mission statement of benefit of the citizens of the county of Nassau and the state of Florida. So I see it changing somewhat. So I have a problem with that. And the citizens have been. The master plan has an OPA, it is recommended that OPA adopt the following vision to help guide organizational decisions going forward. So really what happened is the citizens have been knocked down a peg. And now it's not about the citizens so much, it's about the operator. And I don't read how the citizens benefit in the master plan. Unless by benefit we mean potential smells, noise, truck traffic, potential hazardous materials, dust. And I don't know if that's the intent or not. So I really do appreciate the removal of the cruise ships. And I hope that OPA is with the citizens and for the benefit of the citizens for the original 1941 mission. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tammy Casa.
Having us at 322 North Third. I'm not here to talk about the over 650 emails in my inbox from people opposed to items in this draft of the master plan. And I'm not here to review the ecological and health hazards related to cement dust, nor to describe in detail the epic failure of the first tile shipment of cement, nor to dwell on the loss of hundreds of birds that previously roosted near the port. I won't even touch cruise ships, thank you. I'm not here to remind you of the strong opposition to cruise, cement, and fertilizer by major nonprofits, including the Tourist Development Council, the St. Mary's Riverkeeper, Conserve Nassau, Main Street, the Amelia Tree Conservancy, and Florida's First Coast Golf. I'm here to ask you to do one thing. Review section 8 of your charter. It's entitled Purposes. The purposes for which OPA is created are hereby declared to be public purposes, like Bob said, of benefit to the citizens of Nassau County. Public purposes of benefit to the citizens of Nassau County. Look around this room. Make eye contact. These are your constituents, many of whom voted you in. These are the citizens of Nassau County, for whom your charter declares are to be the beneficiary of your actions, not the operator, not OPA staff or board members. Cruise ships would generate income to pay for the director's salary. Cement and break bulk cargo increase would generate greater profits for the operator. Well, not only has it been shown that these items would not benefit the citizens of Nassau, but they would actually be detrimental. OPA should be developing a master plan with the intent to reduce, not increase, the negative impacts on our roads, bridges, community safety, environmental health, human health, and the real drivers of Nassau County economy, which is small business and tourism. The operating agreement may not provide the ability to restrict what can or cannot be brought into the port, but the master plan shows OPA's intent along with short and long-term goals, and it should be a plan that shows how to support the 2 local mills while reducing road traffic, noise, pollution, and public health hazards. Being a part of the solution and considering alternatives to your current plan truly provides a benefit to the citizens of Nassau, and it creates a collaborative spirit which sees beyond financial gain of just the port to a larger picture. The decision to review the operating agreement is well received, but what are the incentives for the operator to adjust his agreement? Why would he want to do that? The decision of pursuing business profits and being a good steward and neighbor is not a binary choice. Please remember the sole purpose mandated by your charter when finalizing your master plan, and consider how your choices may or may not benefit the citizens of Nassau today and for future generations.
Thank you, Dan. Dan Anderson.
My name is Glenn Henderson. I live at 346 South 7th Street in Farmington. I've been a resident of the downtown historic district for 23 years. I have a considerable investment in the city in both my primary home and also in a rental property, and until recently a second rental property. I'm a big supporter of maintaining the historic nature, character, and charm of our city. I've written you all emails several times on the subject of, I won't say it, cruise ships, aggregates, and most urgently, cement powder. I'm not gonna take time now to repeat my concerns. You know what they are, because I've written to you. Many others have about flooding. Many others have flooded your inboxes, your voicemails. They've shared photos of spilled cement. They've contributed articles to the News Leader and to the Observer, and they've showed up for your meetings. My point tonight is we are on the record with you for what we don't want. We also have implored you to find substitute cargo that will keep the port viable, maintain employment levels, protect the environment, and be a better fit with our community. If you do that, we will support you. But if you don't, and you move forward as currently described in the Port Master Plan, then when things go wrong, and they surely will, we, the citizens, will suffer the consequences, but the blame will be on you. We're begging you to protect us from disasters analogous to East Palestine, Camp Lejeune, and God forbid, Love Canal, that have the potential to destroy the community that we so cherish. Please, commissioners, do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Chip Ross.
Across 210 North 3rd Street, Fernandina Beach, Florida. In view of your statement tonight, I'm more interested in two things. Number one, the process you're going to follow tonight. I understand there was a red line copy that was not distributed to the public where there's corrections. Nobody's seen that. And I hope that if you talk about that tonight, that you will then distribute whatever changes you make back to the community. And so that we can look at that these community members who come here and spend so much time and effort can see that this. I was told that this is going to be passed tonight, and I just think that that's totally inappropriate for my use to having a process like this. Number two, I find it incredulous that you're now talking about that operating agreement. I was in this very room where the attorney for the board said, don't pass it because of all the problems that it generated. You were one of the people that voted for it. And I'm just incredulous that you come back now and say we have all these problems that were at the time brought up and brought to the board's attention, and then they passed it. So I'm not quite sure what you're going to do, how you're going to fix it, but you do have a signed agreement. It has caused all kinds of problems. One thing you could do is cut your salary in half and pay the city the money you owe us. But we would really appreciate that. Thank you. The other final thing is, I got 30 seconds. We don't really, if you go to an ad valorem tax, the city will greatly benefit. We'll get about $300,000 a year as opposed to the $50,000 that you're now refusing to pay us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for that information.
Chairman Fuller, can I address Commissioner Ross? Well, I just wanted to tell him that it's on the website.
Red line.
The red line.
Yeah. The red line version is on the website.
But it wasn't on the website a couple of hours ago when I looked at it.
It's been on there.
Then I apologize. I just didn't find it.
All right. Next is Dick Kunkel.
Dick Kunkel, 331 North 6th Street, downtown Fernandina. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the real dilemma is that there's a real difference in what really matters to the port management versus our local residents, our business owners, and our tourist trade. I appreciate your comments about the cruise ships, and I won't go on about it. It's a right decision, and I hope you make right decisions in all areas. I live within blocks of the port, And I walk my dogs past St. Michael's Academy on a daily basis. And I watch 50+ kids throughout the entire day out playing in the playground and enjoying themselves. Right across the street is a daycare center with more than 25 kids playing outside on a daily, regular basis. I have to ask you, which one of you or all of you is prepared to accept the responsibility for the potential health concerns for these children, the teachers, caused by hazardous materials and airborne dust from the port? How long do you think parents will endanger their kids' lives by sending their kids to St. Michael's Academy? This is a school that's been around since the 1800s. It was once St. Joseph's Academy, a tremendous tradition. What a tragedy it would be for this school to close because of fear. We don't know, obviously, what the short-term or long-term impact of what you're doing at the port will cause. But let's be perfectly clear about one thing. You won't have the luxury of saying, I wasn't informed of the potential danger. You won't have the luxury of saying, I didn't know. No one warned me. You won't have that luxury. The facts are clear and very visible to see. You have to choose to see them. Which one of you in the future that decides to support these measures will stand up, raise your hand and say, it was me. It's my fault. I'm the one that made the wrong vote. I could have put an end to all this danger, but I didn't, because what was really important to me in 2023 was revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gary Clark.
My name's Gary Klopp. I live at 310 Stamia Street. Thank you for allowing me to speak. So thank you for moving the cruise ships and thank you for setting a different tone tonight from the last meeting that we had. This port is located on a barrier island surrounded by water, an extremely sensitive ecological system, and a high wind area. The dust and smell from the type of materials that we're talking about bringing into the port, as detailed by numerous videos and pictures that have been shared throughout media and sent to both you and our city commissioners, clearly showed us. We can't contain the dust, we can't contain the smell. Over the last month, wood that sat outside for 8 months from a fire in July has been removed. I talked to the port operator today, he was very nice to speak to me, and said, if I wet it down, I'm gonna get blamed for putting it into the storm drain or into the water system. I sent photos. My Jeep is covered in wood fibers. I'm having my house painted. I'm spending $20,000+ to have my house restored, and I have dust blowing into my wet paint onto our furniture, and we're breathing this in because there's no other alternative. This is wood that has glues and carcinogens in it, that has mold from being out there for 8 months. That's not right for any person, let alone all the people that ride their bikes, walk their dogs, that live in that area, because it's not just my house, it's the entire community. That stuff is in the air and it blows. The statement was made at the last open meeting that many ports on the eastern seaboard handle these items, and that is common. My question is, how many have a residential area within 50 yards with a 30-foot buffer zone, with residents and children outside, entertaining, playing, working, and exercising? Is within 1 mile, if I could finish, please, is within 1 mile of a town that includes a 50-block nationally registered historic district, schools, churches, daycare centers, businesses, etc., have over 1.7 million visitors per year. And then we're talking about possibly large silos and different systems. And then what is the noise and what is the site of that? But I would like to add a positive note at the end, and I'll be brief. All the
topics that I talked, I had quite a few, present large challenges. We appreciate the open lines of communication that Butch and his team have begun. With the experience that is now present, we are hopeful that the port can continue to provide good paying jobs to their employees and be a good neighbor, as they have stated many times. This island has gone against status quo, and because of this, I believe is why it has become so special and successful as a community. Let's continue to break status quo and work together to show what is possible. Let's not try to be good neighbors, let's be good neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is it Teresa Pointer?
Hi, Teresa Pointer, 3967 First Avenue. I don't live downtown, but basically my life is downtown. I represent Cafe Carabao, Timothy, Gregor McGregor, Mini Leaks and Drinks, and Duck Pennants is our new business. I've been working downtown for 21 years, schlepping it, and my heart, soul, and a lot of our income is there as well. We no doubt love Fernandina. First, I want to thank you for taking cruise ships off. Passionate about that has been very disingenuous to what we built in the city. So thank you for listening, and definitely appreciate that. So moving on from that, I'd like to just say I'm very, very hopeful that you can find a plan that we can move forward with a very viable port that doesn't include anything that could pollute, poison, and endanger the citizens of our historic downtown. I have grandchildren in St. Michael's. I have potentially a lot more grandchildren that are going to be going to St. Michael's, and to threaten them in any way would not be in anyone's interest, and I know it's not in yours. But thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for listening to us all, and I just appreciate everybody standing up and speaking for the viability of the town that we all just are beloved with all of us. And we just want to see it continue in the way that it is. So thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Yeah, Charlie?
Chad Charland, 3046B, First Avenue in Fernandina. And I just want to remind you that you can say no. You can change your mind. Every time business interest asks for something extra in Nassau County, they don't have to get it. You don't have to give it to them. Nassau County and this port doesn't exist for the sole purpose of squeezing every last penny out of every last orifice. I like Jacksonville and I like Miami, but I chose to live here with our small town and our small port, and the decisions coming out of this building, not only by your board, but others, have consistently been at odds with the type of community I want to live in, and all these people here in attendance want to live in. This is another of those decisions where county officials are being asked to go against what the community wants, what the people want, to make everything bigger, even though bigger isn't always better, and to grow, even though that growth is reckless. You're being asked to put the desires of a very small few who want to make more money out of our community over the wishes of all these people who just want to live a better life, a safe life, and be healthy. I want you to say no to fertilizer and cement dust and other hazardous materials that endanger this community and are a bigger and more dangerous industrial port is not something I want. And you don't need any other reason to do that besides this community has told you that what it wants you to do. You need more revenue, we'll find another way. Find another way that doesn't risk the health and safety of everyone in this room, of myself, of you all and your families. All you have to do to adjust your operating agreement and master plan is to say, well, that's what the people want, so we're going to do it. That is what the people want. What a great reason. What other reason could there possibly be to base your decision on? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Finally, no, not finally. Joyce Tootin.
Hi, thank you. Oh, it's not working. That's all right. I'm a teacher. I have a teacher. My name's Joyce Tootin. I live at 2120 Beach Street in Fernandina. I want to thank you about the cruise ships. It actually gives me hope as a teacher that you can do some research and come to some accurate information. Because I really think OHPA needs to stand up and take care about the consideration about bringing cement powder and fertilizer to this city. And I totally get the need for revenue. I welcome it. We all welcome a strong economy, and a resilient economy will happen if we have a diverse economy. And so I get it. The port needs their revenue, but not at the expense of safety. And in fact, safety, if safety comes first, if safety is the priority, then long-term revenues will be higher. Then maybe they won't be higher in 2023 or 2024, but in 2033, the port will still be able to operate because nobody's suing them, because the dust went a different way. Instead of the dust covering the rookery, there's only been 3 birds back there. That includes federally threatened wood storks. I haven't seen anybody stand up yet to defend the wood storks, but you can bet that with 3 public schools and countless other private schools, that there will be people standing up for their children and their grandchildren if that dust goes another way. And silos and booms bringing in power. We already had 12 plus bags break. And and by the way, those bags are still sitting out there. Clock is ticking on their UV exposure, and when they technically won't break it, won't be viable anymore. Are they being moved? Will they be moved before that date comes? I just think that OHPA needs to act first for the citizens. First for the citizens. We elected you. First for the citizens. Second for the operator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Harrison.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Michael Harrison, 800 Somerville Street in Fernandina. Chair Forward, I congratulate you on your decision. I'm not sure that it is simply a personal decision. I'd like to know that it is supported by the entirety of this board here tonight. Second, I think you put your finger on one of the big roots of the problem, and that is the operating agreement. I last looked at the operating agreement closely when the previous operator was working, and it seemed to me that whoever drafted it had ceded most of the authority for the management of the port to the operator. I remind you that the operating agreement is not God-given. It is something that is under your control. So please study that closely and make sure that your wishes can be achieved through it and through the port operator. Finally, as regards the master plan itself, I'd like to know what further stages it has to go through before it is adopted by this board and before it is approved by any higher authority that it has to go to, and what is the schedule for it to be completed and implemented. And thank you.
Thanks, sir. That's all the comment forms that I have, but is there anyone that hadn't filled out a comment form that would like to speak? I'll give you a couple minutes. Come on up. Please fill out a form after you talk to them. Oh, you got.
Yeah, I apologize. I arrived when you were speaking
That's
and I
all
didn't
right.
want to step up and.
I didn't just anybody.
So, and I was getting all my kids organized before I headed over the bridge to join you this evening. My name is Agnes Lyden, and from 2184 Lakeside Drive East in Vernon Beach. I again, like everyone else here, would like to thank you for your decision regarding the cruise ships. I really came here to talk to you because I've spoken to many of you about the cruise ships before. That was my first interest with everything that's being discussed. But I'm a parent at St. Michael's Academy. I'm also a parishioner of the church since 2005. And I'm knowing about the bulk cargo and what happened that week during the attempt to test it out. Looking back on that week, I look back at the work that I was doing at the school as a parent, as a volunteer, and what my child and the other 250 children who attend St. Michael's were doing that week while this was happening. It wasn't just a one-day transfer, it was a multiple-day transfer, and as it's been pointed out, some of that material is still sitting outside, still being exposed, and still possibly has the risk of spreading again through the air. Our children go outside in the morning for morning break, morning snack, and then they also go outside again for their lunch. They sit on picnic tables outside the school. Lunch is served from the back porches of the school. We have hot lunch that's provided by 2 different restaurants in the community. And then also they're outside having recess every day. In addition to gym class, they walk to church. They go between buildings because we have mentorship between the older kids and younger kids at the preschool and the kindergarten. So you have kids transferring, walking outside throughout the day. And also that week was Catholic Schools Week, in which we celebrate Catholic schools and try to encourage the community to be part of the Catholic school. And the kids get to spend the whole day on Thursday participating in Field Day. And this is an annual event where they are outside for hours, participating in outdoor activities. So when you're making decisions about materials and the types of materials you'd like to see the board invest in, please consider the risks that you're putting on these children who are outside every day, multiple times a day, being exposed to them once they become their point. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Anyone else?
I know it goes with the rule with, I just wanted to say one more thing to Butch and let everybody know. They received a shipment the other day.
You want to come up, but Gary, you want to come up?
Oh, sorry. Come on. I ran out of time if you would allow me. It's a positive. So the other day I was walking my dog and I noticed that there was another ship in. And it had the same apparatus that was offloading as a cement sack. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. And so I watched, but it wasn't cement sacks. It was a product called SCA Pure. Or at least it was labeled on the outside. It looked like a paper product, but you may know what it is. But it was clean. There was no dust. It was wrapped up really well. It went right onto the trucks. You drove it around into the warehouse. And there was no impact really to the community. And if we can find things like that, I believe wholeheartedly that would be an incredible way ahead as an example. Thank you. I just wanted to say that.
Well, but wood pulp, yeah, wood pulp.
But it was wrapped up. It was good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Last chance. Yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Michael Huffman, 303 Calhoun. I promised my wife I wouldn't do this.
She's sitting back there watching you.
Obviously, I don't listen well. We've owned here 9 years. When we bought, our view is of one of your warehouses. We're right across the street from your houses. That is me. We had our own factory for 30 years. I was a tier 2 supplier to the auto industry, which is one of the toughest industries to operate in. I'm familiar with occupational safety and health. I'm familiar with EPA. I had the benefit of sitting in a meeting in the late 90s where they brought in some major consultants and they had all the presidents of all the local automotive divisions. And the very first thing that the speaker said was the problem that you're having is sitting right in front of us, and you have all created why these people are here. It is, you can't lead from behind. You can't bring a product like those concrete bags in, not have the proper overpack containers, not have the proper bunker containers. You're going to have problems. Accidents happen, and people are more aware. If you had the right facilities set up, the right containers there, you haven't even cleaned up the mess that's been in the paper for 3 weeks. You're not helping yourselves. You're not going to gain trust wanting to build silos. I understand pneumatic conveyor. I understand mechanical conveyor. You think you got a problem with a couple little bags blowing around dust? Wait till you put a 400 CFM 6-inch pipe out there and you start blowing concrete dust through there out in, and if you have one breach, it will cover that into town. I understand that. You need to be more proactive. You need to have your plans in place and try to educate the community of what you're trying to do, not bring the stuff in and then hope for the best. We see that every day. Ask for forgiveness, do it and ask for forgiveness. That doesn't work in the community anymore. And I understand that if I can, that one of the major benefits of that port, if I'm not mistaken, is it's a non-longshoreman port, is the self-loading ships that come in. There's got to be a major market for that, not bringing in bags of concrete from Turkey. There's got to be a better revenue source for you to service the community. You know, we walk through the community, we walk through the port with our dog. I see one of the guys that operates, I'm sure our dog barked at you, I'm sorry. Nice guys, they deserve a good wage. They deserve a safe operating thing. They shouldn't be the ones that would be on the news in 5 years on one of the attorney things saying, hey, have you ever operated and had to handle concrete powder? Call us, we'll get you big money. That's what you're exposing some of these guys to. You gotta be smarter than that. You are smarter than that, because it's hard to operate a business today. And I'm glad I don't. But please, as you're looking at the community, be smart about what you're doing. Don't try to leap from behind. Be prepared when you bring this stuff in. And you won't have this. If you would have operated, if you would have brought those concrete bags in, and if there was a breach which there's going to be, and you cleaned it up right away, and you had a bunker, and you had it covered, most of these people wouldn't even be here. But yet it's still not cleaned up. It's still sitting there. And that's what it happens. You have to earn our trust. Trust is earned. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. I first of all want to thank all of you for being here. I hope you know that we do listen. Sometimes it takes a little longer to get it in our heads, and I'm a former school teacher and I always do my research.
There's one more person that would like to speak, one of the workers.
Yeah, come on. Charlie.
Yes, sir.
Come on, Charlie.
Just by listening, I'm behind on this, but just listen. I understand the community concern, but let me advise you. Savage.
Name and address, Charlie.
Charles Clinch, 301 South 13th Street. But set the record straight.
Microphone doesn't work, Charlie.
So set the record straight. Where warehouse number 2 still at? My parents had all that. Where empty lot across the street, all that belonged to us. Right now, my dad still living in 94, so. But dealing with Savage, they're all about safety. They feel that concern. We doing everything we doing, we clean up the mess. It's really that much to breathe and none of that, but since I've been coming, it's all I've been hearing about the port. The port provide for my family. My dad worked at Raymond for 58 years. He was making like 17 cents an hour. So I can't tell me nothing about hard work, but with Savage, they showed me they're all about the community and us. They preach safety every day. About the community, let's clean this up, let's do this up. So you can't really fault Savage for nothing. We doing our best. But what I see, most people that comes down here, and I'm 48 now. I lived on that side of town before they even had the yards. It was nothing but mesh and wire, so they about to do it. They used to play over there.
So, by me saying that, since the port being here, it's been good business. Yes, we had some bad times, some good times, but the service that showed me it's gonna be a lot of good times. So don't be scared to talk to anybody in service. They don't bite. They will talk. But we believe in professionalism, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff. We treat y'all with utmost respect. All you gotta do is talk, and you will get an answer. But I'm saying that. But most people, you don't understand your house and you build your house. I ain't trying to say negative stuff, but some people that complain about the concrete and all this stuff, but every time you turn around, you see somebody chopping down trees and putting up a house real quick. All they're gonna rise on the property taxes for other people that can't afford property taxes. But you keep cutting down the trees, people have no air to breathe. Trees produce oxygen. So what you gonna do about that? We'll start cutting down trees? Then the mills ain't gonna make no money. So it's a up and down situation. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. I'm probably showing my age, but I just said I was a teacher. Charlie was one of my students. I know him very well. As I was saying, we thank y'all for being here. We want you to be here. We want to hear your voices. My computer's about burned up with all the emails I've gotten, but I've read every one of them. I didn't want to respond to every one of them because there were so many. I'm glad you're here tonight so I can tell you that we do listen to you. We do our research. We talk to the port operator. We make sure he knows our concerns. We know what his concerns are and what he's trying to do. And believe me, we're all about safety. We want to have the safest port in the area. And I think we've come a long way since our previous operator, believe me. And the employees appreciate the new port operator, but we'll get this all fixed and get it worked out and keep talking to us. We want to know what your thoughts are. If something goes wrong, let us know. And you know how to do that. We found that out. So please come back to our meetings. Since I've been on this board, there have been times when we didn't have anybody in the audience. Nobody wanted to come talk to us. I didn't. Almost, okay. You didn't come to every meeting. Now, you haven't been to every meeting, Chip, you know that. Almost. But we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And we're listening. Believe me, we're listening and we'll get it worked out. And I know I speak for the rest of the board and anybody else have anything they want to say?
Okay, thank you for coming out tonight and voicing your opinion. Your concerns are noted. All right, we're listening.
Now, we're gonna go over the master plan tonight and hopefully we're gonna get this thing approved and get it moving. We've spent a lot of time putting it together. We think we've got it all worked out. We've already told you some of the stuff we're putting, that we took out of the master plan about the cruise ships and all the facilities that were or related to that cruise ship business. So that's off the table. So, and there's some other things in there that we're gonna adjust. So you're welcome to stick around. We're gonna move on and conduct the rest of our business, and we'll take care of the master plan in just a few minutes.
Also, I wanted to just acknowledge the people that came to speak about cement and bulk aggregates. After we dealt with the cruise discussion, I tried to respond to almost everybody, but I probably have 18 emails that I haven't just responded back to in the last couple of days. But the bulk aggregates are a concern. I live downtown. I live about a mile from the port and I run almost every day. And I felt like I could taste the cement. I'm just being honest. But it is cement. It's something that we use every day. And so we look at, well, how dangerous is it? And we read the articles, we listen to the EPA. We're hearing that information. And when we're told that certain things are more or less dangerous, it's hard to know how to come at these problems, right? And so hearing all of that, I walked into this meeting tonight thinking, cement, I don't like tasting cement. I don't like seeing dust on people's houses. I don't want children breathing cement dust. But what can we do? What can we do? But walking in the meeting tonight and hearing all of these comments, it really makes me think that we have to take a firm line. And so I intend to take that position tonight. And I really appreciate you coming out. It makes a difference.
All right. We're gonna move on. I'm gonna move the agenda around a little bit. I want to hear from our port attorney and let's listen to his report.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I don't get an opportunity to speak to all of you collectively. I've been your attorney for almost 3 years. I want to tell you that the majority of the work that you pay me for comes directly because of the language in the operating agreement, which not that this matters, which I have nothing to do with, but we're having to work through, and it's going to continue to be that way. When I read the operating agreement, I see continued opportunity for confusion, conflict, disagreement, not only between this entity and the two other local governments here, but the operator itself and potentially third parties. And so I'm troubled by the operating agreement. I have been since I read it for the first time over 3 years ago. And it needs some attention. I've expressed some of these opinions to the legal team for the operator. They have promised me and they have demonstrated to me that they are looking at the agreement. They're trying to understand it and understand what it means for them. And so that continues to need attention. And in my opinion, which you all sometimes pay me for, it's got to be addressed or you're going to continue to have very expensive problems. So that's my piece on the operating agreement. We had a hearing on March 1st in the property appraiser cases and the city of Fernandina Beach case. OHPA filed a motion to consolidate those 3 cases. If you recall, there are actually 2 property appraiser cases. The first being Hickox versus OHPA for the denial of taxes status 21 and 22, and then when they denied our taxes status again the subsequent year, rather than going through the administrative appeal process that would just cost you all money, we filed suit against the property appraiser. So those 2 cases were consolidated, but the judge declined to bring in or consolidate in the city of Fernandina Beach case. So that case still stands alone. The judge does want to see some action on that case. It's been sitting for about 2.5 years, frankly. And so he has asked the parties to get together and confer and come up with a scheduling order. So we're working with the city on that. There's really, other than that, in those cases, nothing to share in a public meeting because they're active litigation. So like before, if you have any questions about those cases or what that means going forward, please let me know. The other items on my report, I think you and us have all discussed. I'm happy to answer your questions.
So we have a component, I'm sorry, Chairman, we have a component in the master plan that has the modes and methods of coordination between OHPA and other local government entities. These cases are evidence of our lack of good communication. And I know we're working, but is there something that we should be adding into our master plan that you would suggest that might assist with that?
No, I looked at the changes. I think that frankly, that's it's generic enough that I don't think it gives rise to any specific conflicts. Again, I think the majority of the litigation that you've experienced over the last 3 or 4 years has come from acts, statements, and policies of the previous operator, to make sure everybody understands that, but also with regard to the operating agreement itself and how it's structured. So I didn't see any specific changes that I would recommend in the master plan.
Yeah, so there's a section that, and we'll get into some of the detail when we're going through it, but I'll raise it at that time. But there's a section where there's review of like local regulations, the charter, and kind of an analysis of our constraints. So like in a SWOT analysis, it's like your, I guess, Yeah, so it's a constraint, it's a weakness perhaps, or. So in any event, I thought at least acknowledging some of these friction points and perhaps having like a high level, broad brush comment about alleviating that or having an annual meeting that we would aspire to meet annually with the county, with the city. You know, these could be some things we could put in our goals. It doesn't have to call out the specific cases, but there may be a broad statement of, you know, history of friction and how we would have modes and methods to hold ourselves accountable, to have those meetings, to have the joint planning session. We've done that already, and it was very helpful. So, well, we can raise it when we get to that.
Address some of that in the map. Okay, anybody else? All right, so you want to take a break before we get into this, or I'll go ahead and jump in it. Here, it's up to you. Okay. All right, Justin, we're gonna go ahead and try to get this master plan taken care of. Justin is here to present it to us, and we're gonna do the best we can to get it on the board over here so y'all can see it. That's the only one we're allowed to use tonight.
Thank you.
If you share on screen, I'll send this by email or.
No.
Okay.
Right off the bat, the first thing he has on here is the red line master plan document was circulated on March the 7th. With changes from the January draft, so we've seen the changes since then, and it's been on the website.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So I pulled up the website to see where it is, and I'm having a hard time finding it. So I just wanted
It was
Thank you.
under port business. You see the,
And this year, the stakeholders haven't gotten a copy either. We were told that there was no red line plan, that we were just using the old plan and you guys would have.
Please, we can't have any comments from the elders.
And then under meeting minutes. You see that?
It's a little, it's, to me, it comes across a little confusing when the public's usually going to the front page there and they see the package,
Right.
they can pull up, but I mean, I think it would be better if there was a link there that had red line, you know, just the red line draft, but just make it a little easier for the future to try to get everything out in the public. But I found it, so yeah.
Got it. All right, Justin.
Yeah, so, good evening, thanks for having me tonight. We have released, an update that was just completed, this week, with red lines from the January report. It was sent to Prasanna and distributed to the board, and is now on the website for public review. Primary updates in the new draft, as has been well documented, all mentions of cruise operations and a multi-purpose building have been removed from the plan. We have added some additional sustainability and green initiative items, a discussion on those items. Many of them would need additional study to determine if they're viable here or not, but they're in the plan to be considered. Some of those include shore power, solar power, diesel fleet conversion, clean truck programs. That there's some reports around the country that offer incentives for owner operator truck drivers to upgrade their equipment to newer, more fuel efficient trucks, basically. And then, as was brought forward by the community, greening of the perimeter of the fort. That can help beautification of the area as well as air and noise pollution reduction. So there's some ideas that have been added. We also incorporated the Nassau Trade Flex into the inland opportunities. That was not in the last draft, but that has been added. There's another potential opportunity for inland port growth. And then
To project this somehow, or, I mean, the public can't see what you, it's very helpful.
I did it. I didn't see. I thought it would be projected, but I do apologize. But I'm going through everything on it, so, if there's any questions. feel free. Outstanding items, so, stakeholder and community concerns that, I'd like more discussion and direction on, how we'd like to address them. Bulk cargo has been mentioned quite a bit. The plan is currently written. Suggests requiring the operator to supply transportation, material handling, and safety plans to OPA for approval before any new cargo service is initiated. So, just to bring it up for discussion, is there any additional changes, anything in the plan that needs to happen? Here's all I got.
I like that you called those out at the beginning, because those were changes that we've made in the last week.
That's
And
right.
when I was going through like the page around 80, you start to get into the sustainability initiatives. And you called out other ports, and that was something that we heard from the public. Why aren't we aspiring to be, a state-of-the-art port? Well, obviously there are constraints, but I like that we're incorporating as aspirational. Other ports are doing this, and then connect the dots. I think is probably the piece that's missing, is showing these are examples, and which ones are we going to prioritize and try to incorporate, and which ones make the most sense for what types of cargo we want to, focus on. And we're probably going to be wrong. I mean, forward-looking statements, right? But at least to have that, and that part of our process when we're just making decision-making, it's a good framework.
Right, yes, I think the items we mentioned have specifically been added because we think they have some merit in this area, this port, this community, and again, many of them would require additional study, additional costing, additional, looking into them, but certainly could have merit. Okay, so keep moving. So another concern that's been brought up is hazardous materials. So the plan as currently written requires that, suggests requiring, again, a master plan can't require an operator to do anything, but it suggests requiring an operator to refrain from handling any material identified as cargo of a particular hazard in 33 CFR Part 126.3, which is a federal regulation that governs hazardous materials at waterfront facilities. So that is and has been in the plan to try to reduce the amount of hazardous material that's brought into the port. And again, that's fine to kind of work with the operator for any updates to that, but it is in the master plan. And then
Is that in the red line here?
it was in there already, but it's, I believe, resigned. If you get down to scroll down to the table of contents, I think it's in 5.2. So on page 43.
You could type it into the top on that. There you go. Right. If you type it in right there, all the way to the right. 43.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. If you type it on that keyboard. Yeah, it's not one of them.
So I think we should amend the master plan to have investments in Rosanna's equipment here. Or can we just do that?
Scroll down a little bit.
So will the ultimate document be like a smart file where you can click through?
Yeah, I have bookmarks.
Okay.
You guys get to where you need to get. So,
So I thought it was like a meeting. To see if we had the executive summary at the front, then that would kind of call out these sections that you really do want at the forefront.
it's it's new targeted market service coordination. Prior to initiating any new targeted market service into the program from DINA, whether described in this document or not, I quickly require the terminal operator to provide notification of the new service and submit material, handling, transport, and safety plans for the new cargo. Additionally, I quickly require the terminal operator to plan to transport cargo of particular hazard as identified in the federal regulation.
But that's so you're citing those regulations in a table too, right? I think there's a table at the beginning that has like cited regulations.
Yeah, it's in there all the time.
Do we list examples of hazardous waste or we just reference the statute?
We don't spell it out, it's spelled out in the
Right.
statute.
It could change.
Right.
Includes explosive. I can bring it up if you want to look at it.
Well, and just to be clear, cement is not within that schedule. Right. Okay. So what would these types of materials that would be included, just for sake of example?
Explosives, I believe. Once ammonia and nitrate, something like that, really the high hazard, that material that you would not want. Perhaps that is.
So I thought that we already had some of those prohibitions in our, I think the city has those prohibitions in the fourth element of the comprehensive plan.
Sure they do.
And I think we also have some of those prohibitions in our, we have like a safety, plan that we have to submit every year for certification, and I thought we already restrict any handling of those listed substances.
I have not seen that first one. I've been through the operating thing and I have not seen it.
It's not.
No,
It's
it's not.
not in the file, I think it's like the fire marshal or something, it's like our hazardous spill response plan. That's not what it's called, I'm just trying to remember what's.
I use the stormwater pollution plan. And,
That's in that. It's in that.
It's fine, I don't mind.
Justin, what that 33 CFR 4.26.3 covered? Those issues?
Well, it covers these specific items listed, right? And yeah, and those items would fall under that regulation. If the board adopted that, with the operator would not be allowed to be brought in.
Right.
Right.
And we're following those regulations, or they are following those regulations, so.
Pretty standard. Any more discussion on that?
So do you typically see in like other courts where there are standards listed that are more specific than this? Because this is kind of like the most dangerous substances.
I mean, right, so different courts have different scenarios and in different areas and have different dynamics. But also they have different markets and different things that they're able to attract, and you know, the things that have been identified in the plan that our markets up Fernandina include some of those things, so that they're in the plan, right? You know, that those are markets that the operator has potential to go and bring into this sport.
I'm just not sure what this adds to what we're already doing. I mean, I think it's good to have it in there, but, I thought we already had some of these restrictions in what we're currently doing, so I'm not sure what this.
Yeah, I don't think it's above and beyond anything you already did.
Okay.
Agreed. I mean, that's within the plan. Yeah. Okay. So Commissioner Hill sent some comments, that we looked at. I'm calling her out specifically because they're the only ones we got, but, I know you mentioned the executive summary a couple of times, so that will be rewritten, for the final document, once we get all the final approvals and content in there. We'll include that. You had mentioned one of the recommendations about about the designation of Port District roads that had already been approved. I know at the joint workshop in January, the city seemed supportive of that. So we can add a statement of the plan that discussion has happened and that is in process, so that we're forward looking and current with the plan itself. And then the next item was the sale of the unused parcels. You had some markups that would soften this language to where there could potentially be port use in the future.
Right, and the thought there was not industrial use. The thought was that we should do an evaluation of the highest and best use and have evaluation of the real estate by a professional before we determine that we're gonna sell it to fund operations.
Right, and so that's what we'll add a statement that's.
So like,
What are you trying to do?
yeah, so the section 6.32 that says sale of unused parcels, I just requested that it be evaluation. So that we would, I don't know what my reference were actually going to put about, but I think what I said was just that we should have an evaluation of underutilized land to determine what we should do with it, whether we should sell it, whether we should retain it, if we should move things around.
Why would we want to retain it? We can't expand on it.
Have we done a professional analysis to determine it needs to be sold?
Who would determine that it needs to be sold but us?
We would have a valuation of the property, like a broker price opinion or a professional appraisal.
I don't know where you're going with this, but
I'm not arguing with what might actually end up happening. I'm just more like, I'm talking about the process and get there.
we promised the community we would not expand the footprint.
Correct. And I agree with you.
If we built anything from the port on that property, that would be expanding our footprint. And that's not what we're gonna do. And I don't want to, we're not gonna keep it. I mean, we need the revenue. That'd be a good source of revenue
absolutely. I'm not trying to be argumentative.
Okay,
It's just that I think it makes it sound like we've already decided the land should be sold, and I think we should go through a thoughtful process.
I thought we've been doing that for months. In fact, going through a thoughtful process about getting rid of that property, using it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you have with someone else, but I haven't been involved in that. What I've seen is discussions about selling land to fund a cruise terminal. And there were lots of discussions about selling real estate that was zone residential to fund a cruise terminal. We're no longer building a cruise terminal. Now we need to figure out what we are going to do. And so to say that we need to sell the unused parcels right now, to me, is a premature conclusion. But what we should do is evaluate what to do with those parcels.
Procedurally, we would, before we sold any property, we would need to determine the appraised value of the property. Or probably the smartest is to not sell the appraised value. This statement in the plan does not set a timeframe for the sale of that property. Clearly, when you were looking at multiple buildings, probably sooner than later. But before I would make a recommendation to this board to sell the property, we would bring a plan to you about, what we would sell it for, how we would go about marketing the property, whether we need to retain a broker, but all that would have to be detailed out before we would bring this specific as part of the process. Yeah. This is just identifying it as essentially surplus property to the court, and then we can sold or something. But
So you're basically wanting to declare it surplus in the plan.
so,
But I don't think we should declare it surplus unless you've done the analysis to determine that you don't have use for it.
Anybody else agree with that? I don't know what.
What I was taking from it was, it's really just trying to determine the highest and best use of the property, because any real estate transaction, any appraisal is going to come through, and so, I mean, that's what it would be the appraisal process that would help determine that, right? Yeah.
So Justin, did your team analyze the property and come to that conclusion? Or what's the source of that information?
I think that would be a study beyond scope of what we're doing. I mean, I think that the master plan says you've got this property that's unused, that there's been discussions to basically give it back to the community, and the level of study we're in, we recommend moving forward with that with using the funding for other things that would be more beneficial to the board.
Yeah, so my change was to the second sentence to delete, it is highly unlikely, to say that OPA should evaluate these parcels for sale or use in the future. If pursued, the sale of parcels could help supply funding for items in this plan. That's all I wanted to change. That's it.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Everybody agree with that? Yes, we would say, okay. All right, so that's a change we'll make then. That'll be amended. You're welcome. All right, what's next?
And then the recommended markups divided by Commissioner Lund, they feel like for, I don't know if we're gonna go through every single one of them tonight. I don't think anything drastically changed anything. I think they're all pretty reasonable, changes.
I would be very welcome to put the changes up on the screen, because if they have objections, I will send them.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Does Rosanna have that?
It was not turned into,
It was.
was it?
Yeah, it was like 11:45. 2 nights ago.
Okay, what are we trying to?
He wants to show the red lines that I sent in response to their markup that we received 2 days ago. I sent back comments because I had marked up the previous draft. I thought we were supposed to redline the document, so that's what I did. So I have markups. So,
When did you do that?
instead of sleeping.
Last night?
No.
Oh,
As soon as we got the request for comments, so,
and when was that?
A couple days ago. Sometimes
You want to go over what those are?
I mean, it's not that many that we haven't touched on.
Well, let's go.
6.4.
Let's do it.
So,
we need to take a 5-minute break then,
Why?
because I gotta download it on the thumb drive.
The red line?
Yeah, it's not, that computer is not connected to my computer. It's running through a thumb drive.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Let me find it just a minute. And it was to you, okay?
You, me, and Justin.
Revised board submission right there. No. I just,
This works for Mary. She sent it to you.
relation, right, this one? I just resent it to you. And that one. Sorry, that's okay.
You were copy originally, right?
Yeah. It's probably. Not yet.
Yeah.
And that's why I give the board a deadline to submit documents.
That thing's doing good. doesn't it?
Not form. That's a great time. Where did you go? The golf league. Oh, TBC. That's it. You're right. You're right. A lot of people were involved. Yeah, it's about to be. In the. Oh, yeah. I had a. That week.
Just, I think we take out the part about, that's what I did, we made dates ready. For this.
We have it, that's still on that. So it's more of a recommendation, so I took that in. As the objective of the recommendation. It's in there. We don't send this. Yeah, it's like English person.
So Justin, you didn't send this to me.
I did, no, I saw there was gonna be a way to project this on screen.
That's okay.
You know,
I'll just scan this and then.
yeah.
Okay, we're ready. Do I not give a deadline to submit documents? I don't wanna. Chairman, we're ready. What page were we on? Sir. Thank you. What page do you want? Or do you want to go through the whole thing?
So long, so long.
All right, Justin. What's everyone?
You want to just page flip, is that what we're doing? I can, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, let's do that.
Good, so
What page you on?
keep in mind, this is the markup of the January draft, so a lot of these changes have been incorporated already.
Yeah.
For instance, the dates have been updated. The table of contents will be updated for the final, with the correct pages. So I think these are some minor comments to the on the back, right? Yeah.
For the, no, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. In particular, or you just want me to?
Yeah, I just thought this was more background and that you would ultimately have like an executive summary that highlighted the takeaways from the overall document. Like this tells the process.
Right.
And I think it's a good start.
Commissioner, in section 6, I think we have most of the recommendations that ask us to do.
Page 8.
It's page 8 on the Geneva, I think it should be the same in the March. Yeah, so
Yeah, we can keep this in their background and then write a new executive summary that hits all the highlights of the plan. A 1 or 2 page. Thing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. See if we can scroll up faster.
That's on my page. So yes, the Bruce is taken out.
What was that again?
Bruce taken out.
Yeah, all that down, yeah.
Yep.
So this one I just added, like productivity and efficiency, because there seems to be like a big emphasis on volume. But I think in our discussions, we've talked about improving the way we work, not necessarily the amount of. And it may be that efficiency does mean more, but we need to be optimizing, not necessarily just doing more for the sake of doing more.
Yeah, where are we at? Where's the page here? 16.
That's 9.
9.
This is the January document.
Yeah,
I got it.
I'm sorry, that might be slightly different than the last thing we said.
I will email it.
Yeah, I thought that.
So you're in the executive summary part?
Was the March was sent out, right? This week.
Yeah, I ended up redlining this document because the one that Justin provided us had all the comment bubbles, so it was very small. And to mark up a PDF this way, you would not be able to see what it said. So there's no way to edit the PDF or provide red lines, so I did my best.
Okay, I just sent it to you. I just sent a copy to you.
So before we go past the vision, does anybody want to talk about that mission and vision statement? It is pretty important. And I think we should feel good about this capturing where we are, given all the public comments, given everything we've discussed and heard, to make sure that we're good with these statements. I think when we started the process of looking at the mission statement, we were in a workshop, and 2 of our commissioners were not then seated.
That's good.
And so,
This was the initial mission statement, or the current mission statement. So the Ocean Highway Port Authority was created in 1941 and authorized to carry out public purposes to benefit the citizens of the county of Nassau and the state of Florida. Recommended to update to the mission of the Ocean Highway Port Authority is to carry out any lawful public purpose specifically authorized by charter powers, including accessing public grants for projects serving the public interest, and utilizing its revenue bond issuance authority to, among other things, develop, operate, and maintain revenue generating maritime and other transportation related industrial activity in Nassau County. So thank you. Very broad, or initially it kind of narrows it into more specifically what this charter could be. So that's where we come up with that. But we have some feedback.
I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, it's longer.
It is longer, yeah.
And the charter already spells out our charter powers, right?
Yep.
But the revenue generating interest, I think, is, we always have to have revenue if we're issuing bonds, but there are lots of general public benefit purposes that we can pursue if we have other forms of financing or funding that are not revenue generating. But it does say, among other things. Says among other things, revenue generating.
We don't have to spell everything out.
Exactly.
You know, among other things is fine with me, because that's what it is. I don't want to change everything in here. It's just, we don't have the time.
Yeah, I think the goal was the current mission statement says it's for the benefit of Nassau County, state of Florida, this is more geared towards the specific powers that OPA has to benefit, you know, the public. So it's a little more focused. I don't know if it's you know, unless he's as a negative or not. I think it's more in line with what OPA's.
I'm good with it.
Meant to do.
Anybody else?
So if we had projects that were in partnership with another local government body, and they did not generate revenue, but they were maybe like a TPO project, right? And maybe this county puts in funding and we put in some component of it, we help with planning and community outreach, we work together. It says among other things, but it's not squarely within.
Talk about other transportation related to that activity. Our fact of the matter, our charter is way broader.
Yeah.
And that statement, right? I mean, what we try to do, and this is really focused the Fort Master Plan on the maritime transportation activity, but if you go through the charter, we've got powers to do, you know, all those activities that are not through the maritime or that's what transportation related to. The purpose of it is really to kind of funnel it into what we're trying to do with the port and port related activities.
I love the vision statement. I love the vision statement. The mission statement, I'm not sure that I like it better than what we had before, because what we had before was elegant in its simplicity. And it makes so clear front and center what we do. We are a public body that has access to great funding, but ultimately we're accountable to our county and to our state. And we're a creature of public statute. And I think it's a great reminder, just like at the start of the meeting, we have our invocation to remind ourselves that this seat doesn't belong to us, right? It's only because the people give you that authority to make decisions on their behalf. And I think that mission should be very, very focused on who we benefit personally. I think that was a great comment from, I wrote his name down, but not remember off the top of my head, from a member of the public who said, think about your mission and remember whose benefit you're supposed to serve. So that's my point on it, but if you all want to think about it, then, I mean, are we voting on this tonight, or are we? I would prefer to give the public the opportunity to see the document before you vote on it.
It's our plan. We're not taking any more input from the public. We've done that for months now.
I agree, but I agree that we have done it for months, but they haven't seen the red line document, and they should just see it. I'm not saying that we'll receive comment at that meeting. They should have the opportunity to see it before we vote on it.
We're gonna vote on it tonight. If it fails, then we'll continue on, but. All right, move on.
So this just referenced like the prior volumes, and I just was curious which one of those historic years is our goal. So I didn't know if we wanted to put a date, but just to basically say that we're restoring it, we're not. But that was just a language choice, not
I think probably
increasing.
restore is good. I don't know if you need a specific date, but if you kind of get back up to your maximum,
Yeah.
you know, tonnage, that's kind of the goal, I think.
And those tonnage numbers, were they validated? Because I know there was a footnote about that. But though I know the ones in the table you said in the footnote are validated, but.
You say validated, you mean?
Well, because there was, I think the footnote says something like, there were some discrepancies in the way the tonnage was reported historically, and then it was reconciled with census data. I didn't really follow that, but, I just want to understand kind of what our goal is. We're putting it in our master plan, and someone years from now is gonna say, it's in there, you knew what it meant, and I can't really say today that I know what that means.
Yes, I think the purpose is to, again, improve, you know, the cargo at the port has dropped over the years, and I think the idea is to kind of get it back up.
We got a chart of what that is.
Right, yeah, it isn't that.
within that 5-year period, I don't think we need any more than that. At 8. All right. But optimize instead of maintain.
Kind of historical, gone into the past 20, 17, 18 years. So you're kind of max years, ones, yeah, that's in a lot.
That was the steel years.
600,000, so you've kind of been pretty steady, but seeing a little bit of increase here recently, so I think.
Yes.
I think you have the capacity to grow some, and I think that's a good goal in a reasonable time frame.
Yeah.
To have a plan, so.
Yeah, it was just the footnote that I was paying attention to that said that the numbers, there was a discrepancy that was identified and that you were working to correct it.
I'll double check with, where you guys. Yeah, so it was, right, so it was reviewed by Martin Associates, who was our economic sub, and they validated the data, based on information they're able to put in.
All right, moving on. You want to put optimize instead of maintain? And number 3.
Restore. Oh, you're down here.
Fine, there. This is one. Okay. Another problem there.
I think we can move on.
Scratch that part out there, including small ship cruise. Yeah, that's cruise ship stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that's out. Okay, where do you want to go?
You can keep scrolling. This all relates to cruise.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was just like a stylistic change. That really sense. Just adding in, working together with the city to do like cohesive waterfront and ports together. Just adding back in the infrastructure. So this just talked about like the queuing problems and, the way the language was written, it just said that the operator is like continuing to work on it, but it's, to me, I thought we could be a little bit more, put a little bit more strength into the language, just because I know that this is actually being done, that we're investigating the solutions, looking for, potential technological solutions and communicating with the approaching drivers.
Right.
Words matter.
Sweet, so I'll get with that, I wish you see it.
And then I added measure and monitor the issue for improvement, and even if this is something that's just internally measured and reported occasionally, I know, we all know measuring improves something, so.
Okay. Next.
You make sure we have the latest, studies, they're not done every year, but yeah, we'll make sure.
Yeah, it was 2008, where I was like, okay,
That was 2018.
That's 2018, yeah, I think it's a traffic
Traffic
study.
study, yeah. What?
Yeah,
Yeah, 2015, that's it.
that's climate change is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they are the ways, but we'll confirm.
And then I did make a change throughout that was just typographical to like capitalize port, and then there were references to Summers Isles that were misspelled. So I'm sure you didn't. And then this is just workforce training language, how to improve our relationship with existing customers. Emphasis on safety and efficiency over increased volume. So I know we want to increase volumes, but I think if we're gonna say safety is at the forefront, then we always need to make sure that for any decision we're making, that's safety and efficiency as opposed to just more for the sake of more,
Agree, absolutely.
if everyone else agrees with that. So put you to sleep.
I think that's the most recent that we've published,
Page 28, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right. Now, next page 28.
That may be something we want to speak with the TPO about.
Yeah. With the government.
And we added in, we'll see, a statement, I don't know exactly where it's at, I'll comment it, but about your involvement with the TPO and maintaining that, and going to the future to be on the forefront of anything like a truck study, the environmental studies that are being conducted around here, as well as the rail studies. There was a rail study done in 2011 that's probably due to be updated. TPO would fund that, so I think with your involvement with the TPO, that would be a great mechanism to stay on top of that.
Just stylistic. And then this talks about this is the first time we kind of get into the current management structure, and I think we should tell the story that Worldwide was acquired by, it actually wasn't Savage, this operating company, but tell the story of the acquisition, however, you know, they want to describe it.
Is that in here?
Not really,
It is in the market area.
Yeah.
This,
but only because this is the first time we talk about the operating agreement, and it says NASA terminals, and then it just says in a parenthetical, also known as Savage Services, but it doesn't explain that story. So I just thought, since it's the first instance of mentioning them, it would make sense to describe.
Is that really
so I
necessary?
guess, yeah, I push back because I think the master plan is meant to look forward on it.
Yeah.
That's
I
necessarily
think that's necessary, but we're not the plan.
to be in here, but, you know, defer to the board.
Well,
on
it
that.
says, it tells the story of us entering into the operating agreement. It says the operating agreement became effective. And then it says the NASA is a wholly owned subsidiary, and then it says NASA terminals, and then it says also known as Savage Services as operator. It doesn't say anything, and I mean, frankly, I think it's a material cool development that we have a new operator with the experience they have, right? I mean, that has a big impact on the day-to-day operations of the port, as we just heard from the
But
workers.
why does that have to be in the master plan? I don't understand why we need it in the master plan. This is,
It would just be two sentences. It would be two sentences to say Worldwide Terminals was acquired July 6, 2022 by blah, 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 and they
that's all
are,
you have to put in there.
yeah, that they are now the operator, the beneficial owner of the contract.
That's,
So we can add a sentence or two.
any problem with that in my process?
That would not be the great, you know, yeah, I don't. Well, I also don't think on the, and not speaking for you, but the third paragraph, I don't think it should say also known as Savage Services. I don't think that's accurate, and it's certainly not legally established, right? So I think that parenthetical should be removed.
So is just Nassau Terminal LLC the right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just remove.
Also,
known as Savage Services. And describe the Ridge Woods in a couple of sentences, is that what they're asking for?
Okay.
Okay,
But that parenthetical right there,
needs to come out.
yeah.
All right. What's next?
Just when you draft it, just make sure that. Person's document.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to the stakeholder committee,
Yeah.
to all the people that put a lot of thought. They all read this document, they all participated. I mean, not this draft, not this version of it, but, coming out to meetings, lots and lots of time.
Definitely, be part of it and appreciate it. So public engagement, so yeah, just need to add in kind of a description of the last, round of that, so we're done for this. Fine,
Was that in the red line that you circulated or not?
it's not.
No.
I mean, it's a great comprehensive document, though. I have to say, I learned a lot just by reading it. Okay, so then I just bracketed this with no comment, I apologize. But I know later on you discussed like the cycles, like if we could quicken the turns, and if we were doing, pulp, that if we were quicken the turns, that additional warehouse space wouldn't be required. So I didn't know if there was a way to take this graphic and kind of like highlight areas of emphasis, like when you look at this as a, engineering firm, like you all look at this and you see like the numbers jump out at you, and so you can see this is an area of emphasis. So I don't know if there's a way like later, when we're discussing recommendations, to kind of pull out the areas that we would say this, this would be a highlighted area of emphasis. So it's just a thought.
And so we try to just refer back to the table, so that it doesn't add additional, graphics to it. But
Just to move it up.
yeah,
because
that was, yeah. So we can.
A lot of these typos we've already corrected.
Yeah, a lot of that's been just
Almost. Red line breaking sense. Is that it?
No, there's more. Wait for it.
It's a long document.
It's a lot. So there, I just wanted to highlight that, this protected species and habitat section, it's just a good survey of all the different, like, potentially implicated regulations. I love it that you include all that. It's a great reference. That's like in the 50s. Yeah, I didn't have any edits, but.
So this map still needs to be updated, but we will get the correct, the historic, the city. Yeah. Yep, and then there'll be a few text changes, related to that with a number of structures. And some updates that my, map person was out this week, so we can do that. We did add into energy, basically into the sustainability section, see there's been pretty significant additions to that we talked about earlier, so we'll see that and get to the new document. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So this section is important because it talks about our peer group. When you go back up like page 90, or no, 83.
Yes.
I thought this is great information. So I don't know how, how much time it takes to gather this type of data that this. It's like talking about fertilizer and what, what the other ports do. I mean, I know that fertilizer is now kind of not something we want to look at, but that amount of, I don't know, so it's US Census, US Trades. Did you have a team that pulls this data or do you get a third party?
This is Martin, so it's best in the world, the market analysis reports, and they probably took 30 seconds to pull that, because, yeah, they know what they're doing, but yeah, good data.
Yeah, so all this language is listed as potential opportunities, but is this the full universe of potential opportunities, or is this identified as like targets?
I think these are the reasonable opportunities for the Port of Permian target timeline of this document. At the current moment, looking at the timeline is not, and the things change, markets change very quickly in the port industry, but it's the full look of the opportunities at this point in time.
Yeah, so there's one statement in page 87 in the section on bulk, potential dry bulk cargo. So that last sentence, I didn't highlight it. At this time, the terminal operator has no plans to pursue the transport of fertilizer at the port. So there's two paragraphs that talk about fertilizer being a great opportunity and the development of on-dock storage, but this time there's no plans.
I think the last workshop we had with the city of Which made that statement that there was no plans at the point in time to pursue that. I don't know what you have any feedback on it.
And we're not speaking with us. We handle this product in Wilmington, North Carolina, with our other product. So there could be that potential. So it's just in there for that reason, nothing more, that we're not doing anything at this time.
I mean, whether it's broad or not, it's a opportunity for the port, so.
Yeah, I would like to add in, and I apologize, I would like to add in a statement that, that any additional like dry bulk cargo, that the other concerns should be addressed, like, so not just the hazardous materials concerns, but like the nuisance concerns, and you have that section in there, but I think it should be called out with regard to dry bulk cargo opportunity, that needs to be taken into account. If this is something that we're identifying as like a target opportunity, that's a big drawback to pursuing this.
Yeah, so I mean, the way we've handled it so far is to basically suggest that you require Bush to whatever level your agreement allows.
Right.
To supply a transportation plan, so how's it coming in and out, a material handling plan, how's it going to be handled once it's on site, and a safety plan to keep employees and the public and everybody safe from material.
That applies to any users.
Right, but I mean, as a policy-making document, this should say, if we don't think that's an ideal opportunity because of all the concerns we just heard, then this should say that.
If we don't think it's a good opportunity, and then what?
That due to the nuisance and other concerns, that this would not be a priority.
And I think, I'm not going to speak Patrick, Commissioner, but I think that's one of the concerns we have about it. Right. Is whether we told them have the authority to restrict.
But we could also just put an X on that entire section. And just have it in there.
But that doesn't mean that you want him.
That's true. That's true, but putting it in there as a target opportunity. I mean, you said this isn't the universe of opportunities, these are the ones.
I would say it's, you said the universe, I mean, there's a lot of things out there. I think these are the realistic opportunities.
part of the associates feel about it. Geographically and the side of we have capabilities.
Won't, but at this time, they don't have
But
that.
we're taking a position.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, the board could say, we don't think it's a good idea, or whatever the language you want to say. We don't, whatever reasons, don't think this is the best argument to bring in. That doesn't mean never do it, that doesn't mean you will, it doesn't really say anything, but it can be in there. That's
Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right, what's next?
So you have the same language on page 120 that says, at this time, the surrounding neighborhood committee do not currently support such operations. And so I think we could say, due to impacts on the surrounding neighborhood and community, OHPA does not support such operations.
Is that here or is that somewhere else?
Right there.
Right.
Which does matter because even though the operating agreement says that, doesn't say anywhere that we can tell them what color containers they could bring in or what materials they could bring in. No, it doesn't say that. But when we go to apply for a grant, well then, if our master plan says that this is something that we support, we would have to validate that decision at that time. Say, well, this is the information that's changed since we went through that very thoughtful process. And that's why we're going to apply for this grant, because look for all the reasons that this isn't going to happen. That's good. I think that's good control for down the road when it's different people up here, you know?
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable to put in. But not those time document, that's,
Thank you.
that's how the board feels, so yeah.
It seems like some of the definitions might be
principle.
repeated. Well, it's talking about like jobs.
Yeah.
It's great, it's positive, but
What page are you on?
If it's, if it's repeated, we'll just. Mention of it. I think it's just describing the impact and how they're defined.
yeah, if you scroll up the same definitions are would keep the same thing, but then don't have the actual impacts.
Yeah, we'll, yeah, I guess
I just highlighted that because I thought it was great.
Yeah.
236 direct jobs.
It's,
So we have, we have required a ton and certain materials handling equipment. We have it implemented in our service. I wasn't sure if we wanted to discuss the constraints ours of the RA. It's actually not well documented. Things previous operator discussed. Southeastern states that the recipient parts were not able to handle. So if we intend to do barge service, if that's like a viable, rational way to reduce truck traffic, then how are we going to overcome those identified obstacles? Why haven't we done it yet?
yeah, we had some discussion on that.
That's just capitalizing for it. And then we discussed the traffic study, and we say a lot about how the port is not the contributor to traffic issues. We're not a major contributor to freight related traffic, but we don't talk a lot about the challenge that increased traffic flows are going to put on the port. There's a little bit in there about A1A and 200 being like the simple constraining factors. There's a little bit about efforts to take truck traffic off the road, but I feel like that's kind of the big problem to solve from a transportation perspective. Like egress and ingress, like getting goods out. That's the big problem, because we may not be creating the problem, but we will be strangled by the problem.
Yeah, I think we did, I mean, we identified several, inland port opportunities and things off port, using rail. There's a lot of barriers to those as well, that we've listed, but it's all in there. I think too, specifically want that addressed these years.
Yeah, so what I added here was just because this is talking about congestion and whether the port can do anything to improve congestion. And it just says we're not doing anything to cause congestion. So I wanted to add just one sentence of how, like, we need to mention East Gate Street, but we're doing issue. And we can call it a perceived traffic issue because it may not be considered an FDOT failure. But there was a perceived traffic issue around the warehouses and ingress, egress to the port. And so what could we do to potentially include that in our?
What I could do here just to kind of make that point is refer to the section of the report that describes the options of moving freight off or to other parts of the county to help with congestion.
Yeah.
Versus repeating it all.
I like that.
Refer to that.
And that's where I talked about the travel delays, because there is some discussion of that, but it's, to me, that's probably going to be our biggest focus in the next 10 years.
Certainly.
Yeah, so this is where we talk about like the trains, intermodal transfer yards. And you did attach that train study, which I confess I did not read the whole thing. But just a call out to like the takeaways from that, which my understanding is that it adds 3 days to our estimating 3 days. And 3 days is a lot for, so maybe just like some high level like takeaways of what having to go through Jacksonville does to frequent time for the train.
Yeah. Problem. One thing on the comment on that, it is an issue. They got about it. But it's not one that's easily solved.
Yeah.
We're well apart to try to solve it many years ago. We never met or received a public document also that not only the community will be used, but our competitors will do. And so I just want to be careful of language you use to make sure that it doesn't end up hurting us and compete for part of the wrong way to I'm not so sure with November whether the type of part of that work handle as compared to Jacksonville, for example, where they have the same issue. And they're handling more intermodal containers, which are much more time sensitive. I think than that's the whole part of it. So it may not be as big an issue for us and our commodities as it would be for a container from it. I don't approach the streets. I think that problem. I would agree with that. Where the big issues for the accident has big an issue. Or in front of you, it's the same.
Yeah, so it's not really an issue for port, but it's an issue for freight movement generally in our region, right? And so I thought of this one more, not so much as an opportunity for the Port of Fernandina, but more as an opportunity for Crawford, Diamond, and OPA to help solve a freight issue in our region.
Yeah, that's
I saw that.
Yeah, about being involved with CPO and how that could lead to rail improvements regionally. But it would take much more than OPA to get that done.
For sure.
Yeah. So we good with this, just get on the wording, nothing else. Okay.
So that's where I put in the joint meetings with the city and county on an annual basis.
We had that in there somewhere, didn't we?
I don't know if we should spell out for that level of detail, but we certainly can. I mean, we could say that that's the goal of it to meet with the city and county on an annual basis.
I think we had it in our interlocal or in our interlocal resolution. Published saying that we would do that. Right. In the local agreement. I recall saying that we would do that on an annual basis. It seemed like it would be not.
I'll say hard to add it to the master plan, so they can work about it. Yes, that's right. Yeah, we'll get that. Okay.
Okay, so this is one of the items.
So you recrafted this language. Don't exit out. So if you're recrafting it to be like it's in progress.
Yeah.
then it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about this language, what you guys think about this, weigh in, but if they're talking about parking lots, like using the property, using the port employee lot for parking, and it just says additional parking for certain events, just saying like it could be a paid parking opportunity for the public, or, like if you're contracted local business, you don't have to use that language verbatim, but just to make it clear that we can either do it as a public lot or as a contracted lot. Because I know there's, I think the Greenfield man was looking for a parking lot. Was there using a lot? Did you follow up on that? Because I thought nobody else was gonna follow the Greenfield man. Because I know they're using that a lot, that's right next to something Pelican.
How long would they need that lot of days?
I didn't reach out to them, but if you want.
Okay. Well, the operators using the outfit for some.
Or David should, really.
And then we use it whenever we have multiple vessels in it. Yeah. So we have the problem.
I don't know if they need it all the time or on what basis.
But I don't think we can make it a regular service to them.
It would have to be just for events.
That's what we're gonna do now for.
Okay, so then maybe delete the local business because it sounds like it's only gonna be like available periodically for events.
Yeah, I think,
So what you had made sense.
yeah, I think OPA should use that
Yeah.
as a benefit to you. If there's availability to benefit others, then that should be considered.
Yeah.
It's a sale of unused parcels. This is, we talked about earlier, but basically your language, proposed language is OPA should evaluate these parcels for sale or for use in the future. If the sale of big parcels could help supply funding for items of the plan. Is that? Yeah. Okay, so this and the red line came out fully, but we do need to consider CDP, which is something needs to be added in that to address that, whether it's probably just a recommendation to, I don't know how you want to handle that. Dave, you have some feedback?
Yeah, I mean, the concept of multi-use structure was to use the cruise unit as a revenue generator. To pay for space, the tenants you don't pay. Lease form. So we take out the cruise revenue, is what justification for the building. So, we need to put some statement in there that we're continuing to work with customers to ensure that as best we can, and that they're sort of responsible to that in the future. They'll be budgeted some grant money for them, along with the operators and the IT system. And the building that's it, to be implemented, I think it's still ordering the equipment. So that'll have some life to it. Then you'll just have to figure out whether or not we can keep them where they are long term or do something else, either on that same parcel or property that open storage thing. It's just aspirational. Yeah, try to find some solution for the.
But also, probably want to say that if nothing's done, the alternative is that they go back to.
Well, that they certainly put that on the table. You know, is that if we're not able to meet the requirements, for the thing to operate that vacuum. It's a possibility. We're going to have to coordinate with the operator to see if that is something that is untenable.
Okay, so probably what we'll do is update this section while the cruise is out, but. You know, we'll look at additional options, basically. I mean, we just don't really know what that is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the custom house has been such a long-standing problem, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know the solution, but
What's their working on?
I mean, it's,
Yeah. I mean, there could still be a structure in that where we laid it out that could potentially be those uses and maybe that's paid for by the sale of property.
So, yeah, we sell the property, we have money to do that whole building right now.
Well, I'll tell you the meeting customs requirements. Yes, requirement. Something that every port, especially airport Florida, is doing.
Yes. Not just that, it's a big issue. Everybody hates it.
yeah, they don't, they're not gonna pay for it.
No.
So I'm curious to know what other ports are doing. Fighting it, or they go, tenant, right? Like federal something. Which I know in the past there was floated an idea of bringing like a Coast Guard training facility here or something.
The facility they built in Jacksonville, I think 40 years ago, is a joint federal Coast Guard TBD building. that they built. In that case, federal government owns that structure.
We'll be locked in, that's all we can do.
Yeah, if the team has any additional information I'd like to add in, I think that has been a very long-standing issue for us, the customs house. And we have to keep it up. It needs work. And so having a bit more language about that and having the priority and then, coming up with strategies to maybe find a revenue source so that we can figure out how to fund it. Open suggestions.
All right. Interesting, so we're almost there.
Yeah, that's already.
Okay, so this is like, it's chicken scratch, I apologize. I couldn't believe this. So I was trying to figure out what that meant, because we're talking about new developments along US 17 to improve or provide access to the mill. Is that just like anecdotal?
Yeah, do a little research on regulation specific.
Because that would be big.
Yeah, this was from one of our planners, so there might be specific. So let me.
Yeah, I was interested to know, like, if it's a switch yard or if it's a specific improvements.
All that around 17 north of 200 is an industrial, will be radiant property or radiant.
So
I'm not sure what it's called.
this was in the TPO, the most recent TPO report.
It was something in there, I believe, if I was correct.
So
Study or survey for that.
yeah, we could get so you have the specific information. It just, to me, it made sense because it was like.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, we could
vague.
put that to refer to that study to either. Spell it out.
And then on the map, it just like there's just sort of like highlighted areas, but it wasn't clear to me what that was supposed to depict.
Yeah. We can find it. That's what it is and we'll just label it.
You get to see my terrible whenever they got sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, we can add a little bit more description on that.
Wildlife common park.
So it would be, I thought it would be good to know like what the mix of development, like so there's different like classes of industrial.
Right.
To know like, so many square feet or whatever acres of class, whatever, industrial space, so it's a bit more granular, I know that's all published. I know you don't want to get too much detail in there, but it would be helpful just to be.
I think that's the raw number, square foot, so let's say it's an acre, something like that, just to have an idea. And specific on these, we updated this section, some of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, you have the floodplain map. The need for study.
Yes, there. We did add a section on sustainability and green initiatives for the recommendations.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's, yeah, well received. And then when you showed the map, like the percentage of the port that floods and the different flood zones, X versus.
Right. So that's kind of it. The rest are different reasons. So we'll get those incorporated as we discussed. Into the documents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for process. Thank you for going through the painful process.
So that's all my talking points. That's the yeah. Yeah, for this stretched out a lot of time. Yes, sir. No, we're happy to hear.
So are you gonna circulate another red line that we can post, or is it a final, is it a final motion?
I'd be happy to circulate another part. Direction. That's if you want. That's what
I would prefer just a clean copy.
I want to make a motion that we accept the fourth master plan with the red line changes and the revisions you discussed tonight. As amended.
I'll second the motion for discussion, but I would like to wait till Commissioner Taylor.
Yeah, I did too, but
Can we table that motion? Did you want to move to something else on the agenda next? I think we can table it.
Okay, well, I would extend my motion. So he gets back. All right, we'll move on then. Why don't you go ahead and do your report?
You got the financial, the monthly treasury reports in your package. We received obviously the quarterly fee, and we received the ARPA reimbursement, so we're submitting those quarterly reimbursements. And then we paid the master plan to outstanding invoices. So we're submitting those invoices for reimbursement, and then I said we continue to submit ARPA reimbursements on a quarterly basis. So we'll send them here at the first of April once we do the April payment. And the only other item I have is obviously you have a copy of, you should have received a copy of the audited financial statements. Obviously, these are completed and done. Read them at your leisure. There's a lot of different reports in here, obviously done under government accounting standards. There's no comments of note from the auditors as far as any issues they identified or anything like that. Obviously, these should be available on the website to everyone. Again, they're final. I'm circulating them several times for any comments. But like I said, they're done. Again, I think they're self-evident. Everything's in good shape. These will be reported to the Auditor General of the State of Florida. So there's good. That's my comment. All right. All right, let's go back to 140.
Okay. Already motion, we made a motion, went on, but we presented, so we're, I'm gonna reinstate my motion that we accept the master plan with the red line changes and revisions discussed in the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, well, we got a motion.
Okay.
We got a second. No second. I'll second it for discussion. All right, what's next?
My comment is this, sitting here going through this is a very comprehensive, document. I think it's well illustrated, but I have one concern, and that concern is this. At the beginning of the meeting, we were talking about being hamstrung by a, operating agreement. We don't want to transfer any of that to this document. We want to make sure what we got is a solid plan. We don't want to have to say, oh, man, we messed up. We should have done this. Or we should have done that. I don't want to be hasty in anything. And Commissioner Hill going through her concerns, I think it's a good thing. And we got a lot of things that we agree on. But I just want to make sure that we got a solid product here. That at some point in time, the community is going to come up to us, or we're going to realize ourselves that we've done our best, we've done our due diligence, and we've got a good product. One that's going to stand the test that's coming down the road. I just want to make sure we're there. And the people can say, hey, you guys done a good job with the cruise vessels, and you've done a good job with the master plan. That's where I want to be.
Well, personally, I think, we were working on this thing for months and months. Put stuff in, taking stuff out. We've had meetings with the public, we've had meetings with other governmental bodies. I think we have a good product. I really do. The operating agreement is something different. I don't think this affects the operating agreement at all. We and that is a different force.
And I understand that, and I agree. I just don't want anything slipping through the floor.
I don't think you can.
Okay.
I
just
Justin.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So we heard from a lot of folks this evening, and Justin, thank you for your presentation, and Commissioner Hill. Sorry, I slipped out. I was running down the hall toward the end, but thank you for your detailed work on everything you were presenting to us as well. This is a 10-year master plan, strategic master plan. It's a big deal. This is a huge deal, and this is when Commissioner Nelson and I first started. I mean, we jumped right into this, really essentially in the middle of it, as Justin had already really began to work on it. But this is a huge deal, and when I look at what I want out of a master plan, I think it's very similar to what Mr. Nelson was just saying. I want a plan that we can all agree on. We can walk away and say, you know what, we worked really hard, and there may be a couple things here and there, but at the end of the day, it's our job to protect the interests of the community, the residents, the public we serve. That's our job as the Ocean Highway and Port Authority commissioners up here. But some of the things that stood out to me was some of the comments. Let's be good neighbors. Focus first on the citizens. Earn our trust. I wasn't here, and few of us weren't here when a lot of that trust was broken before, and so I'm not comfortable with supporting this right now when we have still a lot of issues that we're trying to work on, and we've got to build back that trust. And if we need to take a little bit of extra time on this 10-year master plan to get it right for us and for the community that we serve, then that's what we need to do. But there's no way I'm going to be able to support this tonight, especially considering that the red line version came out yesterday. It was a little difficult to find online. I think we already commented that the shareholders didn't receive a copy of it either. But I think we need more time to get it right.
How much time do you need and what else do you think we can put in this master plan that will address your issue?
Well, first off, we need to give the public adequate time to review something like that. We can't just put it out the day before and say, hey, let's vote on it the next night.
Why do we need the public to review it? It's our master plan and what we put in it. What we
This is a master plan for the community. It's for all of us. And if we want to be good stewards of the community and good partners with the community, then we need to continue to work with the community.
Understand.
And understand.
I agree that we need to let the public see the final copy. I think we should be proud of this document and we should do it with community support. And we didn't have that the last time we did a master plan. We felt like we wasted our money. I think we've gotten a lot of good work here. Your team has been great. They were very well received at the open houses, at the outreach events. People loved working with them. They loved what they were bringing to the table. And so to finish this out correctly, we need to have the document available, have it on the agenda for adoption, just like we do with the audited financials. We see they get included, they get circulated, they get reviewed because they're important.
So are you all okay with letting Justin make these changes, giving us a final draft? And looking at it again next meeting to approve or what? How long do you think you'll need?
I think we need to look at the changes or make the changes and at least give it, published, I would say 2 weeks. For stakeholders, shareholders and the public to review.
How soon can you have that?
Probably about a week to give a good, just file the changes on journal.
We have March 22nd. I would think we need to give it plenty of time for Justin and then there was a review. I would think that our April 8th and 12th would be ideal.
Okay.
So next meeting, we'll discuss the changes.
So maybe what I'll recommend is that I basically will continue the red line. So it's not a red line of a red line. I can just continue through what we submitted to you. I'll make these additional changes. That's same red line document. I'll send that back to you next week. That can be posted on your website. Instead to anybody else who wants it, and we'll leave it up there for 2 to 3 weeks, and then that April meeting, like finalize at that point.
You will draw your motion for the master, or you vote for it. All right, any other comment?
It was motion in a second.
Motion and a second to adopt the master plan as amended and revised. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Vice Chairwoman Hill,
No.
Commissioner Nelson,
No.
Commissioner Taylor,
No.
Commissioner Cole, Chairman Fulwood.
No. All right.
But we didn't reject your.
No, I understand.
I think it's great.
Yeah, no, I take open. So, I mean, we'll make these changes and we'd like everybody to see it.
We can get them out to us in a week. Now, don't come in here in 2 weeks and start making changes again. You're gonna get it to us and let us look at it. Recommend to Justin before he gets here with that final version, any changes you want to see. Because the public's gonna comment on it, I'm sure. But we've got to get through this process. It's just taking too long. And I personally think we've got a good document, but I understand that you want to make sure.
Well, if I might comment, and I'm not complaining, but after our first workshop, I did provide some feedback and I was told, which I think was right from David, was that he couldn't make a change to the document based only on my feedback. I was like, you're right, the board needs to agree. And so I do like the process of us giving red lines and they're presented here in the meeting. And if you guys have edits, let's put them up there and look at them and talk about it. Or if you just want to point out sections that you, like, doesn't have to be the way I did it with the stupid chicken scratch. It could be, let's just talk about certain sections that we're not sure about, I'm happy to do that at public meeting. I think that's where we understand, because a lot of the sections, I made comments, but I was wrong. So,
It's great getting red line comments and edits on paper, whatever, to us, sooner the better. But if you're not comfortable doing that, or if you have a question about whether it's appropriate or not, Justin and I are always available. So I can meet with you one-on-one, phone calls, whatever it may take, to go through any of the issues and provide any insights that we can provide. You got to make the decision.
All I'm saying is, when you get that next version, go ahead and look at it, comment to them, if there's anything you think should be changed. They can change it and get your thoughts on paper before we get here. So we'll know.
We just got to clean up a typo or something like that. That's no problem either.
Okay? Any other comment? All right. We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
thank you for coming. Thanks for it.
please.
Thank you very much.
Big Mac, order fries. Oh. You wish. Good order. All right. Moving on quickly. Butch, we're gonna have you report finally, operator's report. Everybody left.
I did, and if I may, good evening, commissioners. I'd like to introduce who haven't already met Jeff Hymas. He's in from Salt Lake City. Jeff's our communications director, and he's here for community involvement. The community just left. So we were going to provide some opportunity for Jeff to answer some questions. But we'll meet tonight. This is his first night here, of course, and he's heard a lot of feedback and comments and seen how the meetings run now. So he and I are going to get together tomorrow afterwards and talk about best practices going forward. So excited to have him here and have his support. I can do a Pierre 2 minutes or less tonnage report. With the shipping industry right now, it's kind of ebbs and flows, and you can look back at the modified graph. Yours is in color, mine's not. But you know, we hit our bottom in November. It was slow, and that was just because of vessel timing. It seems like they all come at once and then they all go out. So that's what we've seen. We had an increase in December and January, and then in February we've had a slower month. But we've already in March we've had bulk ship that's been mentioned. Summers Isles currently in. We've taken all the empties off. Get a load back on Friday. Tomorrow morning at 0600 we've got a KLB vessel coming in. I can't remember what the total cargo is on that one going out, but it's a pretty big load going out. And then we've got some other vessels scheduled for the remainder of the month too. So we'll have a good March report. You know, our total tons was down from last month in January at 39,000 down to 21,400. We have one vessel in and a few dockage days with some barges. We did have a increase in rail cars from January from 107 to 144, and that's mainly product coming in by rail that's going to go out on this vessel starting tomorrow, and then an increase from 22 to 33 trucks per month. That's what I have to see. Questions?
From 22 to 33 trucks.
22 to 33 trucks.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't think you have a paper copy, so I was just.
Oh, I apologize. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing I'd like to state, and some people in this room's aware, but we've done a lot more as far as staging trucks and opening the gates earlier and getting the trucks in off of Dave Street onto the property, so there's not that congestion. We're working on a scheduling system, an appointment system for trucks moving forward. We won't be able to gather all of them into that, but we'll be able to get the vast majority in there. I've really seen some great improvements and was really starting to get a little anxious about what we was doing. And then I'll just admit to residents, one morning I got to work and my phone blew up, and it's all pictures of lines of trucks down Bay Street. This is at 7:30 in the morning. And I looked at it and I'm like, somebody didn't open the gates this morning. And that's exactly what happened. Both of the clerks went to the safety meeting. Nope, they didn't recognize they was in the same safety meeting. The operations manager didn't recognize he had both of them in there, and the gate was still closed. That was a one-off. We missed it, but there's been more truck traffic through in quite a bit of time, and we're not having the congestion like we had. We'll still have a one-off here and there because we can't control everything that truck drivers do. We try and inform them, but we'll continue to see what we can do.
Yeah, I heard that it's much improved.
Thank you. Yes, we have two.
Well, and I've heard nothing but great comments about your relationship with the people. You're open and upfront with everybody, and
trying to figure out a solution to things and tell them like it is. You're not trying to put them off or, you know. Just like with Gary, you know.
Yeah. Here, I mean, we see each other most.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a neighbor.
Across the street.
He's across the street, so absolutely. And once again, we do want to be good neighbors. I recognize at times that some things we do is a little tougher on the community than other things that we do. But we're trying to do everything in balance. I mean, we're operating within the requirements of DEP and our operating procedures and our objectives. So our team's doing a splendid job out there. We've got a tremendous team who's happily engaged, and I'm proud of what's going on out there.
Well, for Charles to show up tonight and say what he said means a lot. You know, all your employees feel the same way.
Charles has been there for a long time, so he's seen the ebbs and flows with the operator out there too.
Absolutely. So whatever you sent out to us about within the regulations of everything, can we publish that on our website? That's up to him. I'm just thinking, you know.
It's not up to me. It's been circulated. It's public record at this point. You know, I would remove any names to protect the innocent if it was me, but it was direct from the DEP. The DEP has visited our facility 5 times in person, and they've called on 2 complaints above that. And each time that they've come out, we've been within our operating within their regulations. They've issued no citations. They've issued no warnings. Any recommendations they've made, our team addressed them immediately and went above and beyond what was asked.
If we could redact anything that shouldn't be public information, names or whatever, and give it to the press too. Maybe she'd like to have that. We'll see if we can get you a copy of it after we look at it. Yeah, that was the intent. Okay. Yeah, get some good publicity. President, are you sending it to me?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll let Patrick look at it, and then I'll get with you, Roseanne, and we'll go from there. Let me know. All right.
Thank you.
What's the timeline for cleaning up the plywood? Because I know you started to.
There's a couple days left. We discontinued operations today because the winds was just ferocious. We would expect to soon begin tomorrow because it's supposed to change directions and drop immensely. I think within a couple of days it'll all be gone. We've had a challenge getting trucks or have been out sooner. We're on an island and it's tougher to get trucks out here than other places. But it's really close to being done. So when Gary came up and spoke to me today, he'd given the idea of, you know, let's wet this stuff down. Well, and what I explained was we're under high scrutiny right now, which we're fine with. We recognize it's not a problem for us. But what may fix Gary's problem, someone else may look at that and say, hey, they're just trying to wash this stuff down storm drains and river. So I asked Gary, I said, look, can we shut her off today. If we resume tomorrow, we can get it out in 2-3 days, and then let's never have to talk about this again. So, yeah, and that wouldn't affect us. I mean, that's natural. It would certainly bring that down, but yes.
What about seaming? How long before we completely gone?
I can't answer that. They're over 1/3 of the cargo removed.
So do you do like weather monitoring? Like, do you tie into where the TPOs like weather monitoring?
We have our own station on site, right? And we have restrictions on when we can handle vessels if the wind gets up so high.
Do you contribute it back to TPM? But they have like a centralized like response to them. They like cameras, wind meters, bridges, and just
access and a lot of information here already.
Yeah, we get a lot of stuff coming into us, our own weather monitoring station, but as far as going back, I don't believe that we do that.
National Weather has monitoring devices out that way.
Yeah.
That they monitor and you get our.
Right, moving on, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Executive Director report.
We have, which I don't have in my speech is, I did become aware when he was out on the purple. There were the visitors having to be out there meeting with them as well, and they had received some reports relative to the fire in the neighborhood from previous. I'm not sure that's previous to cement that they believe is for the funding. And so they've been working on that with the bill on how to deal with that. And I have heard from an environmental consultant that's working with the bill that they're working to see if they can put up some trees on the screen and try to help catch some of that. And it might involve copy that or whether they hopefully do that or not. I'll try to go through quickly if I could. I'd like to jump to the action item first to make sure we get that done. There should be a board submission in the report. You may recall back, I think it was in November, we passed a resolution allocating the 2023 FSTED dollars, a little over 24,000. We recommended putting 40,000 of that on our master plan grant and the balance on the warehouse grant. In talking with DOT subsequently to that, there were a number of issues with that recommendation. And it appeared that, especially now that we're not doing the cruise, the need for that $40,000 planning work, which in my mind really geared towards that, trying to make sure that that multi-purpose building really fit where we intended it to be. Since we're not going to do that work, the recommendation was to go ahead and put all that back on the warehouse project rather than split it up. The other part of that is that it's hard to explain, but the project that money was geared to was part of if you remember, the previous operator applied for a PIDP grant, one that was a big project and it was part of that project. And so what DOT is recommending we do is have the SDED council basically reallocate that money to our other warehouse project. And there are a lot of problems that I've uncovered over the last several weeks with the way our grants have been written in the past. A lot of confusion. They've been amended a couple of times, and we're grants with multiple projects that are seemingly unrelated to each other. And so we're trying to clean that up. And this would be the first step. So my recommendation is that we take all $204,000 and put it on the warehouse grant, and we ask the SDED council to approve that reallocation to the on-dock warehouse project. So it's all under one place. I'll need, if you approve that, I'll then be able to send a letter to the chairman of SDED so they can take that up at their meeting. And we can have it.
And what are we approving?
You're approving putting $204,000 or $200,000, excuse me, on the warehouse, on-dock warehouse part of the facility grant.
That's 204,000.
147. It's the current year allocation.
So do you have like the cover sheets for those two grants? I just am trying to understand what was the on-dock warehouse that was not funded, what project was that?
I don't remember. I remember the grant. Butch, have you all discussed this?
Yes, sir.
You're okay with
Yes,
this?
sir. I can't recall exactly which grant that is.
And I've been, we meet with FDOT at our facility.
Yeah.
And, we just met.
Yeah, there were two. There's a grant that had, landside improvements, which is what the State Council had approved as the project. There was not a grant agreement written for that, but that was the project that they approved. And that's the one that was tied to the PIDP program. So we want them to approve our warehouse project, which is entitled on-dock facilities, grant. But we also have a separate grant titled warehouses that we bought cranes with. So like I said, the grants are very clearly identified. But what it's basically is allowing us to use that money for the whole purpose of the public storage facility. Is working with DOT. What we're looking at doing, frankly, is in this rain cycle coming up, is that we will put forward all new grant applications that we should put together originally. Major categories that you have flexibility to allocate the specific project or we know what that project's going to be. And once they can get those projects approved, we'll then go to the second process to reallocate the dollars we have assigned to existing grants to the new projects, and then we'll close out the old. So that will start fresh.
What's the actual warehouse that you're referring to?
So this, the way it's being defined is on covered storage. It could be a warehouse, it could be silos, it could be a dome, yet to be defined. It's projects that we're working with the operator on now. We've got a number of commodities that we're looking at, and depending on which commodity is the best for the port, that's for the operator to handle, that will determine the type of facility we're going to take. None of the money will get spent until we have an actual contract for it, and obviously the commission was approve those.
Now, this money, none of this is used for the damage that we got to the warehouse.
That was part of the other issue that we had, is that the project definition only included new construction. Did not allow us to use it for any rehabilitation, renovation. Again, that's something we'll fix so that we do that.
So this is gonna be any improvements that are needed to come out of the master plan process? Because that's.
Well, we gotta be consistent with the master plan, right? So the master plan talks about additional covered storage facility for break bulk and bulk cargoes. So that's what we're talking about using this money for. Again, we don't have to define a very specific project at this point. Again, what we have to do is get funding in place so that and eligible for those projects. And then when we have an agreement to build a certain facility on our terminal, we can then use those funds.
So it ended up, I'm just trying to follow the flow here. I'm sorry, I'm like visual. So we took it from the master plan. Wait, no.
So we were allocated $204,000 in 2023 dollars, 22. So the recommendation in November was to divide that between two projects. One being the master plan to allow us to do additional planning studies on projects that came out of the master plan. And the thought then was that the multi-purpose building that was being recommended for our plan. That was very exceptional. It was a mile wide and an inch deep. We didn't know, we had very little detail to go on in terms of whether or not how that building would be configured on the site, how the transportation would work, et cetera. So additional studies were going to be necessary before we could actually build that structure. Now that we're not going to build that, the idea is to
So basically, we're just putting it back to where we.
putting it back on the warehouse project, but we got to put it on the right one because the one that the State Council approved no longer exists.
Been very confusing.
Yeah, so whenever we voted to move that, I think I did ask.
And it never got moved.
Well, right, when we asked to allocate it.
Right.
I think I asked, like, what's the underlying project? And I didn't really get. Discussion. With that. Thank would just be used for like general engineering as for whatever were to come out of the plan.
Right.
So now, I don't know, I'm wishing I asked more questions about that initially. I'm just being honest. Because if it was just for the cruise terminal, I probably would have voted.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it was just for the control. That was certainly, in my mind anyway, and if I didn't explain that, then I apologize. But it certainly was the one project that was, you know, critical to the master plan. That would probably be the first thing that we would do.
But it's a little bit cart before the horse to like reallocate grant funding when you haven't even approved something in concept, like you haven't developed a policy.
Right. The problem was that we were being told by DOT that we had to take action on allocating that money right before the end of the year. So.
So we would have had to move it somewhere anyway.
Yeah. And we're gonna be doing a lot, as I said.
Fair enough.
We're gonna be doing a lot more moving. Coming up because we gotta get.
Okay,
grants
that's fair.
allocated.
That's very properly. Yeah, I retract my earlier comment.
Right, correct. All right, I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion and second to approve the F funds. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, no. Motion carried. Good.
I'll try to go through my letter very quickly.
Question. Who second the motion?
I said, yeah. I said-
You second the motion.
You made the motion.
I did not hear the second, sorry.
So our maintenance dredging, you know, we went up a day, we awarded the contract that began on February 27th. And I'm told that they think they're done today, they're doing the post-dredge survey. They've gotten everything they need to get, so hopefully that's behind us. Be some time again before we have to dredge. Those first. Been a number of meetings with Florida Ports Council, especially now that the legislative session has started. And all the legislative committees are reaching out to ports now for information as they consider directions they want to go. Two of the big items that they're working with the ports on are apparently there's a huge shortage of aggregates coming into the state to support the FDOT work program. And so they're asking all ports if they can, you know, to do what they can to handle additional aggregates to help support that work program. And then the other is there's a lot of interest, not surprisingly, on resiliency and storm damage that was experienced. So we're continuing to coordinate with that. Related to the resiliency, we had a meeting yesterday with the consultant that was selected by DOT to do our resiliency plan. James McDonald will be the project manager with the firm of HNTB. He's been around the port system literally all his life. He's father since former port director, port manager. We had that meeting. So he'll be conducting the study. We invited the city engineer and city planning director to that meeting. So that we're coordinating those efforts and sharing data and information. So that was a really good start to the process. It'll be a more formal kickoff probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But that project's moving forward. Talked about the SBA grants. We've had multiple meetings with MARAD representatives regarding the MARAD grant and on compliance with that grant. I've met with Butch as well. There's more work to be done in the next few weeks on that. And I don't want to say a whole lot more about it, but we'll keep you guys posted as to what direction we're going. Regarding office space, we've worked with the tax collector. They've given us now to the end of April to move out of this approved property and continue to work with the city on the schedule for the tech center, which still appears to be the best alternative for us at this point. They think they'll have space ready for us in early April, so it will involve some form of lease agreement, which we'll have to bring to you guys for approval before we occupy that space if we do. I think I mentioned to you all around October, November, when we had some of the storms coming through, that the conversations I had with the Florida Ports Council and the FDOT Seaport office I made the recommendation that they look at developing a handbook for seaports on compliance with FEMA reimbursement requirements, because the port, like any public entity, experiences any damage from the storm, there's a process you have to go through to make sure that you receive reimbursement for it. And if you don't dot the i's and cross the t's, you don't do it, you don't get it. So they just awarded a contract to a couple of planning consultants to develop not only a handbook for all seaports, but also with the annual training to go along with it to make sure that all the ports know what the processes are. And as we develop that again, we'll be lockstep with the operator to make sure that they're documenting the things folks will say that.
I didn't quite catch that.
I don't know if that's part of the scope or not, but it's something that certainly we would invest. If we have training in Bernadine, we would certainly invite the city.
Yeah. I think they would, I think their new manager would attend.
Sure. I've been invited to so you'll know I've been invited to speak to a couple of groups. I'm meeting with the Nassau Chamber Board tomorrow to give them an update on the master plan and what we're most particularly interested in the cruise. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I've been invited to meet with the Amelia Island Newcomers Club on March 16th as well. So, that's all I have.
All right, good. Thank you. Let's move in quickly into the committee reports. I think that's all we've got. Did I leave anybody else? All right, Port Security, Commissioner Nelson.
Okay, from last month, it seems like that one security issue was dealt with. I followed up with Mr. Clark today, and he said it hasn't got all the way completed, but he understands why there was some sickness with some of the officers, but that it will be taken care of. So that eliminates that problem. So everything outside of that, all good and secure.
Okay. I couldn't make the meeting. Do you have anything next week?
No, just continue to work through these grants for you.
Very good. Customs House, Commissioner Nelson.
I spoke with Mr. Parrott yesterday concerning the IT project. He advised that he had spoken to his superiors about it. They are working with a third party to try to obtain the equipment. No rush. And basically now he ended the conversation. No rush on their part. So,
and yet they gave us a deadline.
Steady as she goes. That's pretty much what he said. You know, he said as soon as he gets some additional information, he'll get with you.
I don't have anything from Corps of Engineers, Economic Development, Mr. Cole. Emergency Management. Nothing to report. TCC, Mr. Taylor.
I guess there was a meeting last Wednesday, March 1st. I was stuck at the hotel because there was a little car show that I was right for. But I knew that Dave went, and nothing really new.
CPO, Mr. Cole.
CPO last month, attended and so did Dave and so did and afterwards they got a tour. We got to do it. Of the facility.
Yeah, like they have a whole, like incident command center where they have cameras all over like northeast Florida. And anytime a car stops in a major thoroughfare, they are the ones that are like, they have a 911 answering, like the 911 dispatch is there. It's basically for transportation purposes, it's the incident center.
For all those cameras on the red lights.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and it was interesting because they have like all of the wind and other like storm data, weather data, all of that that's available. So I just didn't know, because I know Jacksport does tap into that, but I didn't know if the Port of Bernadine tapped into.
Public allowed to tap into.
Well, like OHPA would be able to, the county has access to it, our emergency response like in Nassau County has access to that same data. But when you have a storm, you want to already know who called. That's not going to figure out who called. So I didn't know if there needed to be some additional connections made, but they have the resources if there's a storm coming to provide you real time, like the most accurate information.
All right, while you're on the road, Chamber of Commerce.
But they did ask if I could be designated an alternate. Mr. Sheffield said that it would be helpful from a contingency planning for TPO to be over as alternate.
Sure. We can, do that. We can just, don't see if we need, I mean, you're more than welcome, but I wouldn't see if
And he said that, I was want to say Vice Chair Cole, let's say Commissioner Cole is always, and he's the chairman, so he's like, his attendance is perfect. He's like, I don't think we would need it, it would be good to have.
Yeah, no question.
Okay.
All right. Chamber?
Nothing new to report.
All right, City, Fernandina, nothing to report except they have a new, an interim, what? City manager, yeah, interim city manager. That kind of took everybody by surprise, but, it's what it is.
It is former Chief Blackford.
Yes, yes. Community outreach, you got anything for that?
Yeah, I mean, in talking with the folks that have emailed in, just trying to respond back. I get from members of the community, they just like to make a response. And I know it's tough because once you start responding, then like tonight, I was like, I respond to most of you, but I know I've got 20 emails I'm responding to. And I don't want people to take offense, but some is better than nothing. And so I would just ask that, other members of this board, if you're able to respond, just to say we hear you, however you can, it does help.
I've responded to every one of them. Okay, thank you for your comments, your concerns are noted. All right. Caveat, TPO, there is no TPO meeting tomorrow. Because of lack of quorum.
Get everything up there on TCC. I think it's important. The TPO each year allocates money for planning studies. And so, in essence, you go county to the members, put forward ideas, and I think you guys have a need. So I suggested an intermodal logistics study to look at public roads, countywide, to see if there is a demand for some intermodal logistics center. That might be for, again, not whether they're funded or not. They did ask us to put forward that item.
Okay. Office manager.
First, my report is in the packet. Second, there were some documents that were not included in the packet because either they were not submitted or they were submitted, but no directives were given. So please, I try to give you guys a week to submit your agenda items and documents to accompany it, please, by the deadline. You see, the public asked for it. So I try to compose the packet in time for you guys to review it and give me feedback. If there are any documents missing, please let me know so I could include it.
Definitely all need to be more responsive to what she's asking for.
Yeah, because I can't just easily include it. You see the equipment I have to work with. Third, Mr. Laporte have a suggestion or for me in my quest to find healthcare coverage. He suggested that I transition my employment to Corson and Stam pending board approval. That way I can take advantage of their employment healthcare coverage. I will pay for it out of my paycheck. And the logistics, you want to tell them the logistics, like taxes will be covered.
Yeah, so obviously, this was an arrangement we talked about with the previous, where essentially they could be an employee. We use ADP Total Source. So obviously you have access to a full suite of healthcare, vision, all that kind of stuff. So adding an extra employee for us, obviously other than there's a cost associated with the healthcare and overhead and things like that. But there would be no change to that other than obviously we would invoice. So you'd be paying Coors in the Stand. Obviously we pay for the hours, whatever hours she works through Coors in the Stand. She would be, like I said, she'd get W-2 at the end of the year from ADP total source instead of OHPA. So essentially you're essentially hiring Coors in the Stand to do your office management function. Nothing would change. As I said, she'd still be the one doing all the work and things like that. So there's no plan to replace or do anything additional beyond what you're getting currently. And so ADP total source charges. So besides the base pay, obviously, like I said, the healthcare has a cost, which she'll pay from her own pay. And then there's an overhead rate. That overhead rate would be slightly higher than what you're paying now because it includes all the ADP total source. Right now, you're essentially paying the 7.65 for Social Security, Medicare plus unemployment tax. Essentially, if she gets the benefits or anything like that. So the ADP total source rate it dropped down after the first 7,000 to like 12%, 11.7%, something like that. So that's about the only change that you notice. So obviously she gets access to all these benefits.
So what's the bottom
Discount.
Talking about how much extra?
So it's about 5% more.
I don't mean anything. What's the amount? What's the total?
Well, so on $10,000, we're talking about an extra $500
a year.
Yeah, for every $10,000. And we all pay her about 15,000, 20,000 maybe. So, but she gets access to a lot, much more robust benefit.
And that's important for her. I mean, that's important.
Absolutely.
She's taken care of it. So
We've been trying to figure out how to do this since been a boy, and that's the reason she left us the last time with no insurance, and we don't want that to happen again. So yes,
So we need contracting with your firm for office administration. Okay, so you have to, obviously she's on an employment contract right now. You take that employment contract, essentially delegate you state your duties, and now you, of course, understand would be providing those services through Roseanne. But yeah, so
we have to amend her existing contract.
well, yeah, because it's an employment agreement. She has an employment agreement with the Ocean High Court. So obviously she would no longer be an employee of the Ocean High Court.
And then alternatively to sponsor her healthcare, just remind me again what that cost was gonna be.
So she's checked into going.
Yeah, the plan will be about 900 a month, a little over 900. That's including healthcare, dental, and vision.
That's how
Yeah,
much.
but at Coors and Stanley.
Correct.
What would
Yes,
be-
that's the lowest. That's the lowest one in the plan.
You would pay for that. I think she's asking what would it be if you didn't go to Coors and Stanley?
I researched like through the marketplace, and the lowest would be 1,500 a month.
So it's all to say $600 a month.
And it would be taken out of my paycheck.
Yeah, personally, I mean, I think that's a very incredibly generous offer that. So thank you for that offer. Notwithstanding, you have worked very hard for this board, and you're a very valued asset to this board.
Thank you.
And I think that our relationship should reflect that valuable relationship. And I think that if we need to make an investment to help you be our employee, that makes a lot of sense, because we do take your direction directly from us. And you are very responsive to us, and we want you as our employee. And so personally, I think we should pay the money to keep you as our direct employee. But that's fine for me. I just want to.
Do we have a motion or something for this? I don't know how to do this. What is we have to hold up for this?
Which has an existing agreement, we would need to contract with your firm.
y'all wanna put that together, I would want to issue working in your building. That part of it, but. You wouldn't be working, I just heard about this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, it,
I think they've all been working in there, strictly one for us. And I mean, obviously the contract can say it terminates if Rosanna is no longer being employed, right? So sure, that's specific, right? So so we're not gonna replace it with somebody else if we're gonna say them. Obviously, if Rosanna goes, if the contract automatically terminates and you guys. So I think the only issue is, kind of, obviously, the timing was a slight issue, so.
Right.
She's been looking at this, so obviously her healthcare expires.
March 30th.
No.
No, I'd still be,
This is an option that had come up because of healthcare.
yeah,
This is an issue that had come up with the previous or someone.
2 years ago, yeah.
Whether it was you or somebody else, and we brought this up as an option, so that's something that had been talked about previously, so. You resend your.
Sure.
Yeah, again, I support making the increase to, so we can keep the directors on the floor. I personally, I don't like having lots of layers within our chain of command. You have a contract, she has a contract. If something happened with your contract, I wouldn't want her contract to be jeopardized. If something happened with her contract, I wouldn't have to like that with yours. And I mean,
So just realize that you're talking about essentially almost double. Okay. 1,500 a month would be, how much is your take home right now?
Per month, about,
2,000.
yeah, 2,000.
in terms of the difference between the policies.
Because you're talking about CT right now, based on the hours, so you're working.
I'm
60 hours.
averaging 80 hours,
80 hours a month.
but the board allowed 10 extra hours per week, but I'm not really
So
doing that.
again, you're talking about take home is approximately 2,400
24.
a month. Now you're adding $1,500.
That's for all the insurance, or that's just the increase piece?
That's for, yeah.
Right, and she says she's already paid the 900 portion. So I'm saying if we just take the difference, that's 600, that's the difference we're talking about between the two scenarios, is $600.
Well, I will forward you all the health plans and the quotes and everything.
Was there a comparable health plan, just the 1,500 a month?
Not really. Marketplace, you really don't get anything.
That's the other
And
thing.
it's expensive.
Comparable. The 1,500 was the lowest option plan through the marketplace. Obviously, through Total Source, you get different, obviously different deductibles, co-pays, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
better.
don't know if those two plans are comparable.
It's not.
Okay. You want me to work on it? Yes.
It's just that my Cobra expires March 30th. And then there's a 30-day waiting period when I come on board.
Anything else coming for the board?
Like, we talk about one of the things that I said, the AV equipment.
Oh, yes, yes. So I researched it and pretty much what we need, what we could do is like a karaoke. You know, it won't have the lights. I won't turn it on. But this one has four mics at 150. This is through Amazon. The alternative, this is what Corey, the IT person here recommended. 6, that's about 200, and then I'd have to buy a separate speaker for about 200. So I need board direction. And right now, as we speak, my camera broke, so I need a new camera. I need a new camera, so.
Whenever they first proposed us using the space, they talked about the use of the AV equipment. What did they say?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Who makes, I forget what the amount was, $200.
Well, they were using, like, a second.
So they dialed that back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's still very puzzling.
I know,
It's still very puzzling. So now that I know where his office is, I'll back to the commissioner that I went to. I have no problem.
I will say, just so you know, when David and I met with them, one of the explanations the county manager gave is that the supervisor of elections has kind of taken over the cybersecurity and the security of this space due to all the election integrity issues. And so that he may have been passing the buck, he may not have been, but his point was there's not a whole lot the county manager, the county commission can do about it because the county supervisor of elections uses this space and won't let there be any variation on what's done with the network, the equipment, that kind of stuff. So I'm just telling you that so you know.
Why, what would be the threat of using the mic system?
I think they're all integrated with my.
And so that's the state.
Just like tonight, when we took her ground, we took her correspondence to red line changes, you had to go to zip or you put it on zip to put it in, that could have been, from my experience.
Yeah, well.
So that's usually why you have software too.
I just wanted you to
You know where I'm going with this. You gotta have something better if we're, you know where I'm going with this. We need to have something, I need to have something better.
Well, also too, I've been told that we don't have to broadcast our meetings, but I need full board direction not to broadcast or broadcast. Because if not to broadcast, I don't need a camera.
I've never been, full broadcast meetings. I know there are, something not there. Let's wait till the next meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do some more research.
Okay.
How much is it?
It just happened, so I don't know. So right now there's, yes, but I need my laptop to maneuver.
So then you just say.
It's broken. It's, I don't know. You give me directions.
I've had some constituents on my side of the county that like to view it. They can't watch it. They watch it because they can't get here. They can't come, they can't physically come to the meeting.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments?
One more thing. Sorry. I want to thank Commissioner Nelson for always providing his committee report. It really helps me out with the minutes. Thank you so much. And that's it.
I'll tell you all this. When I ran for office 2 years before I ran, I can't even get meetings. Their meetings for 30 minutes. You know, I get 3 hours and 45 minutes, 2 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah.
It's already been once.
You want like each one?